What's up, everybody? Just want to take a quick second and let people know that I am self-supported. I now put all of my episodes on Substack for paid subscribers. I put them up early, and then 24 hours later, I release them to the public on all my platforms. I also have Venmo, PayPal, Cash App, Buy Me a Coffee, Zelle, a P.O. Box, and Locals, Patreon. And all of these, all of the links are in the show notes of every single episode I put out. So look forward to continuing to, provide great conversations. And thank you all for your continued support. Matt, Dave, welcome back. And my first question is, what happens if the tariffs get shot down by the Supreme Court? Who wants to start?
I'll let Matt start because he said something that caught my attention. Go ahead.
I said it'd be great for Lutnick's firm, Cantor Fitzgerald, because they were early on buying up all of the, I don't know exactly what financial instrument it is, but it's something that allows the refund potential. So if the tariffs were later invalidated, the importing company would receive a refund.
So like a credit default swap for some tariff deal, right?
Exactly. And they've been buying them up like crazy. So it'd be great.
Yeah, I trust Lutnick this much, right?
That much? You actually have space between your fingers?
Well, I can't. It's arthritis, No, I don't trust Lutnick at all. There's something about him. He just came out of nowhere, shows up, survives 9/11, mysteriously shows up in the presidential inner circle.
Had a famous neighbor.
Had a famous neighbor. Yeah, Jeffrey. Yeah, good old Jeff Bo. Yeah. There's a whole. I can't believe we're now talking about Epstein like we don't know for sure he worked for Israeli intelligence. I go, come on, you can't rewrite history like that. Oh, let's just pretend World War II didn't occur then while we're at it,
Well, so. At least they're not saying it's a Democratic hoax anymore. So I think we're making progress again.
I guess. I don't know. They're just making it hard to make sense of the world. So they irritate the crap out of me.
The worst one now that's a hoax is the affordability crisis.
This episode is brought to you by Vaulted, launched by McIlvaney Financial Group. The simplest and most affordable way to own physical gold and silver. Physical gold is the only asset outside of the control of the government and banking system. They can print dollars, but they can't print gold. Click on the promo link in the show notes or go to vaulted.blbvux.net/coffeeandamike.
Oh, you mean
Trump said that was a hoax?
Yeah, is he teeing off Mike Green's model?
I don't think he actually is probably familiar with the details like that. But when he was asked about the affordability, which was a great article, I thought Mike Green's stuff was it was pretty shocking to me, and the way that people tried to peel it apart was pretty impotent. I think actually, I think he made a compelling case.
The number doesn't even matter. Exactly. What matters is that if you look at what it costs to exist in 63, it's not the same as now. You have to have a phone. If you don't have a phone, you're basically going to be homeless.
Right.
Things like that. There's just things you have to have.
And the valley of death idea, like that idea, if you're lower income, you're earning $30,000 a year, you decide to really focus, bust your ass, get your income up to 40 grand, which isn't easy to go like that incremental, right. Space, you lose $200, and then
really
same thing. Yeah. And the same thing up to I think 65 was the other number, 65,000. You're net negative, if once you get to that level. So, just the way we have the whole benefit system set up, you wonder why there's a, what is it? It's the participation rate, the labor
force
participation rate.
participation. Yeah.
And there's 100 million people that are not participating in the economy, that
Right.
are up between 16 and, well, now you know why. It's
Right.
they just do the math and they go, I can go work and I can earn 30,000 a year and we'll have less money.
Right. Right. That's why maybe they can't hire at the 7-Elevens and things like that. Um, yeah, well, what I would say is that government lived up to my expectations.
Every time, every time.
Every time they nail it. They nail it every time.
Yeah.
Um, that's discouraging, actually, that it's that bad. And what's really discouraging, and I know that I may be the only one, but I hope Doge would do something, but they've done
Yeah.
precisely nothing, best I can tell. Can you identify anything they've done?
Well, we know that October, we had government receipts were up 24%, and the deficit was 100 billion more than it was last October.
So that's a great progress because it wasn't 200 billion. Um, yeah, I know that it troubles me because that's the
That was our
you know
shot.
well we kind of hoped the war in Ukraine would be over, but I think the Europeans are stopping that. So I think Trump and Putin could have come up with a deal. I think he could have. He did seem to close the border. I'm not even sure that's true. He might have the media just not showing videos of guys ripping across the border, for all I know. Tell me, what's Arizona look like? Is it the
Yeah, I was talking to a friend of mine, and he was saying that, I mean, it's all hearsay, but that people are still coming across, but to what level that it was before, I think it's dropped off significantly. But you don't hear anything about it anymore. I don't even the journalists I was following. I don't see any of them down, you know, reporting anything
so
anymore.
I was supposed to be on a Zoom call with Michael Yan and I couldn't make it. God damn it, that was a pisser. I wanted to. Um, I I think if we're back to Mexicans crossing the border, we're back to a fairly normal situation. That is to say that I don't think Mexicans crossing the border was ever the problem. I think it's the NGOs that were paying for people to come from godforsaken places um, to get here and fly them here, and who knows what they were doing. How that is not a profound scandal is just beyond my comprehension. The fact that we spent bazillions, I don't even want to say billions because I don't know what the number is, but bazillions paying to have guys come across that border. It's just boggling to me.
Yeah, and that there's, what I wonder, of course, there's no justice. You'd like to see justice for some of the crimes that are committed, but like,
Never.
you don't, we haven't heard a word about Mayorkas since he
Oh,
left.
not a bit, not a bit.
The engineer of it all, the guy that as Matt Bracken said, he's like the general in charge of the invasion, and he just, not a word. He's just gone.
They're not even at the point where where he's been indicted and they're preparing to throw the case out. We haven't
Right.
even reached that stage of the competition, right?
Exactly.
Comey's already there. Comey's almost free and clear, I think, at this point.
Isn't that crazy?
It's totally crazy because he is a total crook. And by the way, I read a lot about Comey. I can't remember the source. One of the books I was reading, dug deep. Maybe it was Dinah West's second book. Talked about Comey. The guy was a total sort of Marxist. He wasn't a normal guy. He was a wackadoodle.
Hmm.
He was deeply embedded in a screwed up world, as was Brennan. Brennan didn't just vote for a commie when he was some stone hippie. He was deeply embedded in various authoritarian movements. And then he gets to be head of the CIA. What are the odds, right? Right.
Well, don't you find it frustrating where people are still like trying to absolve Trump of all this, and it's the people around him, and he has nothing to do with it? Because we heard that the first go around.
Well, the first go around, he was in a shooting gallery, so the data was so bad. I mean, it was nonstop. His offense never got on the field. So when he showed up the second time, there were some of us who were optimistic that now that he can put an offense on the field, maybe we'll see something happen. I'm no longer optimistic.
Yeah.
if you talk to someone like Luongo, I think he'll make the case that he's battling, London and this and that.
I
But
know. Yeah.
um, but I'm not sure I'm seeing any shots fired. Let's start with that. These tariffs are just headlines, as best I can tell at this point. They were good for the precious metals whenever we started importing them ferociously to try to beat the tariffs. That caused a real disruption in the precious metals market. But what they don't mention, by the way, is that if you construct a car here and the parts come from abroad, the car's still going to be tariffed up the kazoo. So I don't see how you get around them.
Yeah, the Trump thing, it's definitely been I wasn't optimistic coming into it, but for the first, I would say 60 days of his presidency, I started to think, man, these guys mean business, and they're with Doge
And
very
big balls,
involved, and
big
yep,
balls. Yeah.
yeah, I started to think, these guys they're ahead of the game. They're like, it started to make you think that they're going to really do stuff, and when that fizzled out, then kind of everything did, and then the focus is all on international stuff anyway. While Trump says that it's a hoax that there's an affordability crisis in the United States. I mean, it's just out of touch. It's out of touch.
Of a hoax in the affordability crisis. That's really a phenomenal stance to
Yeah,
take.
I'll look up this his quote actually, see if I can find it all for you, because it's really bad.
It's really from the lips of a billionaire to our ears.
But you know what, though? I think that
Well, and he's just cleaning up too. You see, he can't say he can't get stuff done because he's done so many great deals for his family while he's been in. I mean, really
yeah.
amazing
The deals have been done. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, did you see the while you're looking that up, Matt? Just the Jared Kushner is somehow attached to Paramount, and that's with the Netflix winning the
merger.
Yeah,
The merger.
the Paramount did a hostile takeover yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah. You call that griftocracy, I think, Mike. I think you're right.
We're living in a griftocracy. A friend of mine said that. I said, man, we got to get that on merch.
A friend of mine named Tony Deeden wrote an article about how we've gone from making shit to just moving money around. And it was funny. I sent it to another good friend who shall remain nameless because I don't like to talk about him in public, but I sent it to him and I thought he'd like it. And he hated it. He just hated it. He says he ignores the fact that we've made great progress. And I go, doesn't mean the economy hasn't turned into basically rent seeking the whole way.
Was this friend of yours in finance?
Famous finance. The guys who know me know who I'm talking about. So
okay. Well, that's kind of part of the thing. Like if you're in finance, it's good.
But he's always had a clarity, and reads way outside the box and stuff like that. And so it surprised me when he fired back and he said, "You'll be surprised," but I didn't like it at all. And I said, "Yeah, I was totally surprised." He did it was Einhorn. He did an interview with Mike Green on a stage at some meeting somewhere. And he talked about how broken the markets are, how they're not going to fix. He says they're not going to fix. And so you have to just work within the broken markets. And so I thought that he was the perfect guy to read this article and say, we've just turned into this rent seeking operation. And I told him that. I said, yeah, I am surprised you didn't like it because of your Mike Green interview, if nothing else, right?
Well, but he's just referring to really the passive flows, meaning is what broke the market, right?
But yeah, well, yes, but Einhorn just basically says the market but he focuses on the fact that there's no now response mechanism, right? The market simply can't respond to anything. And as a consequence, therefore, it doesn't matter what's happening. So we're trading NFTs at this point. And your goal is the way he's solving it, I think, is he's buying companies that have cash flow and he doesn't care what happens to the price, which is exactly what he used to say to me. But it's still a bad sign, right? I don't think democracies slash capitalism, I don't think it thrives when you don't have a price discovery mechanism. in the most fundamental places like, oh, let's say the money market. Let's go there. The money market, right? You don't even have price discovery in the money market, right? The most important market in all of capitalism, and the prices are being set by a committee of bureaucrats.
Trump's comments, by the way, said, I think affordability is the greatest con job. They look at you and they say affordability. They don't say anything else. And he says it's a Democrat hoax. They're the ones who drove up the prices up.
Oh, so he kind of can get away with that last clause, right? He can kind of, although he shut down, he let the economy get shut down. So
there were stimmy checks, and there were
the stimmy checks. I take it back. I'm an idiot. I take it back. Forget that. I'm taking a mulligan on that one.
But still, it doesn't even matter. Okay, that happened during the Democrats. Fine. Is there affordability crisis today? Yes. It's not a hoax.
I can't believe, if I go through something like a McDonald's drive-through, a breakfast sandwich costs something like $12. Breakfast meal.
Insane.
It's something insane. When I was in high school, I used to go down to McDonald's and eat a big ass meal instead of go to the cafeteria. You couldn't possibly afford to do that as a high school kid. I once wrote a blog about how I used to carry golf bags for $10 for 4 hours when I was 13, and I happen to remember at the same time, contemporaneously, buying an extra large Italian-made pizza for $2, and I realized I was paid 1.25 pizzas per hour. You do the math on that and you go, holy shit, that's a pretty good salary for a 13-year-old. As I like to say, I couldn't make that unless I was doing hand jobs behind a dumpster at Wendy's. And I wrote that. So I wrote that, sent that off to a person I used to chat with late at night. It turned out it was Elizabeth Warren. She put it in her blog, and then when she read
the hand job behind Wendy's part?
No. I didn't. But that would have been great. I've been trying to figure out I'm done writing scientific papers, but I was trying to figure out ways to flip words like ligma into a paper, and then I just decided it wasn't worth it. I didn't want to destroy the paper because of a scandal, because I slipped ligma. I was going to put it in a word cloud. I had a word cloud for the abstract, and I was going to put ligma in it. But I had coworkers, and I can't do that to them. Yeah. So I did slip a hand job joke in, though. There was I wrote a paper about what are called job plots. I wrote in the abstract, lending a hand, job plots was the next sentence. And my colleagues all knew that, hey, he didn't oversee, he didn't miss that one. He knew what he was doing. No one else ever mentioned it. So I've got the hand job right in a review article I wrote.
What about the car prices too? I mean, a RAV4 is $40,000 today.
A RAV4? Isn't that like an economy SUV?
Yeah, it's a small SUV. The average car price a new car is $50,000.
They just got to start letting you import some of these Chinese cars.
$14,000.
Yeah, I mean, these cars, because here in Uruguay, BYD, which is one of the bigger, it's I think the second largest Chinese manufacturer. 24% of all cars sold here in the last year were BYD, and because they're so cheap. I mean, there's a huge import tax. They love tariffs here, let's just say. So you can see the real impact of tariffs, where everything doubles. It doesn't make everyone richer, by the way, in case people are wondering.
Is it in lieu of other taxes, though?
They pretty much tax everything. Yeah. They pretty much tax everything.
But as an American, lived there, as you know, my son lived there for a year, as you know. Yeah, he said everything falls apart. He said everything falls apart.
Yeah, maybe.
You buy it, open the box, it just goes.
Yeah,
we're getting thirds.
People buy cheap stuff here because it's so expensive to import anything, and so you just don't get the good stuff. But I mean, you can, if you're willing to pay, you can get basically the same, right. But it's very expensive. But these cars, this is like $20,000. They sell a very nice car. BYD does, that you can get here for $20,000, which is it's great. I mean, it's super impressive. It's an EV. It's an EV, but it gets like 450 kilometers per charge, and for $20,000, and it's a nice car. It's
Yeah. Yeah. I think one of the CEOs of one of the domestic automakers went and drove one and said, "Holy
Ford.
shit!" Was it
Ford,
the
yeah, he
Ford
brought one
CEO?
back home. He brought one back to the U.S. with him. Yeah,
Yeah, right. And said that it was the best car he's ridden, something like that. It was really, yeah, that's
yeah.
not a good sign, is it?
No,
They're going to
well,
take
because
over the drug world too. They're going to take over the pharmaceutical world, I think too.
it
So,
makes
so,
sense. Go ahead.
so the evolution is that we outsourced. Here's the evolution of the drug industry there. So somewhere along the way, someone figured out that 9 out of 10 drug candidates fail on phase 1 clinical trials, which requires about a kilogram of something. Now, a kilogram of something can be kind of expensive, but especially the first one that's not optimized. But someone finally figured out, we can worry about how to make that kilogram better, or we can just get the damn kilogram and get 9 out of 10 of them out of here, because time is money. And so that's when they outsource to China. So they say, okay, make these kilograms of all these things we need. And China was happy to do it with slave labor. That was used by China to train their chemistry industry. So they learned how to. And one of my colleagues went to a symposium, and he was in some laboratory. And they were fume hoods, which is where you do the chemistry, and benches. And he says it was so big. He said the best way to describe it is it was like the warehouse in the final scene of Raiders of the Lost Ark. He said there was just chemists as far as the eye could see working at benches. And so farm is a shots on goal problem. And so if they can crank more shots on goal than we can. The only thing that would keep us potentially up to speed is robotics, but they're better at that too. And
Yeah.
so once they're not making kilograms, in fact, that's what the guy said. He said we've pretty much cornered the kilogram market, and he said we're going to take on the medicinal chemistry market now, which is where the big patents are. That's where you patent the drug and then make $3 billion a year selling us drugs that don't do anything.
You talk about just the talent pool there. I was mentioning BYD earlier. They have 120,000 engineers. Now, most major auto companies don't even have that many employees.
Right. That's an Amazon level employee staff right there.
Yeah. I mean, how do you compete with that?
Well, when I went to a symposium when I was a brand new assistant professor, and we went to DuPont, and they said we could hire every PhD graduate in chemical engineering every year. That's how few we're putting out.
But I was looking at some stats recently of like unemployment by or underemployment by major of recent college grads, and the chemistry grads were getting killed too. And so it's like, wait, it's not just the the underwater basket weaving or whatever. It's chemistry not finding jobs.
That's correct. And in fact, the other problem we had is the disruption of Trump throwing a fastball past the chin of academia and cutting off their funding. Turns out to mean that recent PhD graduates, whose next step is usually a postdoctoral fellowship, there was no funding for postdocs. And so every PhD graduate was running into get a job or go on the unemployment line, become a barista. And postdocs were absorbing, most of the chemistry PhDs as they graduated. And so, of course, on the other hand, then there wouldn't be postdocs to hire. So you'd have to hire PhDs. So in some sense, but for a brief period. So, for example, in a typical year, Harvard probably brings in 40 PhD students in chemistry in the first year class, right? That would be a standard class. This year, they're bringing in 5.
Wow.
5. We would normally do about 35. We're doing 28. So we're taking a much more liberal approach. I don't know if it's because we're in better shape or what. Trump seemed to go after Harvard. Trump seemed to have a particular affinity for, it's sort of like, I guess, going into prison and bringing down the biggest guy or something, one of those things. But you think Harvard would have alums who could come and kick your ass, right? You'd think that the Harvard mafia would be able to control Trump, right? Guys like Lutnick probably went to Harvard.
Yeah. Yeah, you would think so. But yeah, I don't know. It's a mess. The world's a mess. Education's a mess. The industry's a mess. So basically, what you're telling me with the drugs, though, the pharmaceutical stuff, basically, it's like the rare earth equivalent, where they sent the fundamental basis overseas, and so the pharmaceutical companies can't do that now. Yeah.
Right. So I consulted for Pfizer for 20 years at the Groton site, which is the main site in the U.S. And Pfizer was something like 56 independent companies that had been joined together into Pfizer through acquisition. So you can't say what is Pfizer. I mean, it's just this network of companies that were bought up. But the main site was the Pfizer Groton site, and that's where I would consult. And I collaborated on Chantix, which is the smoking drug, which I think works really well, the anti-smoking drug. But that might be the only big drug to come out of the Groton site in something like 20 years.
I hope you're in a royalty on it.
No. I was paid for academic standards. My consulting fee was pretty good, but that's like taking the money from Kitty. Inside joke to those who are listening. Pfizer, I enjoyed consulting there, and you couldn't see evil. Where the evil turns out to be at the clinical trials. And you really get a face full of it if you read Kennedy's book, right?
Yeah.
And his description of, using foster children for clinical trials and stuff was truly astonishing. Tell me that guy shouldn't be in the gulag somewhere.
I mean, that book is so shocking. I can't believe someone's not been arrested for that. I mean, the what's revealed, someone named Fauci, obviously.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. But
he's been pardoned.
No justice.
He's been pardoned.
For what crime? Yeah.
But every crime.
All of them?
But I think they just...
But don't you, when you look back at this now, I mean, 2008, who went to jail for 2008?
There is
that was financials.
I think that was the beginning of the fourth turning, to use fourth turning logic. I think the fourth turning, which I think is a brilliant thing to be familiar with. They force structure where maybe it doesn't quite exist, but it's still a great model. And they predict it would start around 2010, back in 1996. So that was a good call. And they predict it would probably be triggered by a financial crisis, but that's not what a fourth turning is. It's much more. I think it didn't start with a crisis. I think society began full grunt mode when they failed to respond correctly to the crisis.
Yeah.
And that's when people got mad. They said, wait a minute. And I think even the banking system thought it was game over. So when they paid themselves huge bonuses, I think that was their way of saying, we're not going to get another big payday for a long fucking time. So we better take some money while we can. And then they look up a year or two later and they go, oh, we're back in the game. This is fantastic. There's a book by Bethany McLean, I think it might have been, that talked about the legal shenanigans that went on. And not the shenanigans, but they legitimately tried to build cases against bankers. And it's very hard to build a case, right? And then it would end up in an appeals court, and they spend 3 hours and throw it out. And so they said, screw it, we'll just fine them. And the fines were always, round number, I estimated about 3% of the profits that they made from their bullshit.
Amazing. Are you familiar with Peter Turchin?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like these cycle theories. I think they're good for thinking, and I don't know, how,
I just read his
like you said,
book. I'm trying to remember which one it is.
Ages of Discord was his first one, the one but there was
There's a
one that,
more recent one. There's a more
yeah,
recent one.
I have it here
Um,
somewhere.
Turchin T. I didn't find it that good. I didn't
A,
find the
A-
end
Ages of
times.
Discord was better. End times, yeah,
End times.
yeah,
End times. Yeah. I didn't, I was not, I thought end times would be great. Melody recommended it with wild enthusiasm. So I went through it within a week,
mm,
and it somehow, it just didn't catch me. I just read a book on the Oklahoma bombing. Yet again,
that's
the
fun.
FBI, yeah, yet again, the FBI blows up something and then blames somebody. And, it's just a complete, but the book wasn't very good either, because it's this random connection of random characters that in the end, it kind of pulls together. But I go, it would have been nice to know where we were heading in this book, instead of hearing these random cases, some guy who dies of, suicide in a prison cell somewhere, and not knowing why this is important. And so it appears though the FBI blew up the building. And it's like the Gretchen Whitmer, kidnapping
Mhm.
case where 16 collaborators, 12 were FBI agents doing most of the heavy lifting. I mean, those 12 FBI agents should be thrown in prison for a healthy period of time, in my opinion. At least the
Yeah,
ones who you can say demonstrably entrapped, evil levels of entrapment. Yeah.
but aren't there a couple guys serving time though associated
No,
with
they
that?
got acquitted. They got acquitted.
I thought
The,
some of
the,
them did, but I didn't know they all did. Huh.
oh, I could be wrong about that. I just know a couple got acquitted, but it still destroyed their lives.
Oh, of course.
You
That
it,
process, there's no way it can't.
and the emotional scarring that occurs. You're never going to be the same. You're going to have PTSD of a very severe level.
Yeah, and it'd be financially totally wiped out by the
It's like the
ordeal
guy who
too.
strangled the guy in the subway. What's his name? I wrote about him. I should remember the shit. The Marine
Yeah,
who choked the guy to death.
Daniel
He's
Penny.
Daniel
yeah.
Penny. Yeah. So he got offered a good job. So, but he's not going to be able to go through life without carrying that scar in a big way. And so our legal
But
system's pretty fucked up.
but isn't it weird how none of the bad guys end up on the wrong side of it? I
I'm
just don't
just
understand
shocked.
that.
I am
Yeah.
just shocked. No one over any net worth or position of power. When was the last important person went to prison? Who can you name? I got one name I come up with.
Oh, the recently pardoned president of Ecuador. Was that
Oh, but
Ecuador? The
that's
one
not
that
let's stay in the United
no, in the
States.
U.S. In the U.S. he went to prison, and Trump pardoned him. He was the largest
Okay.
drug dealer.
So
He
so
was
so
responsible for,
so
yeah.
so I'm not willing to call that going to prison if you don't end up serving the time.
No, he went to prison. He was in prison for a couple of years before Trump just
Okay.
pardoned him.
Okay.
He
Okay.
was imprisoned under Biden because he was totally convicted of being heavily involved, like bringing something like 400 tons of cocaine into the U.S.
That's just a
But
weekend at Hunters right there.
yeah, that's true in the scheme of things. But while we're going after Venezuela to pardon this guy,
What's
interesting.
Venezuela about?
Well, there are theories, as you know. I
Well,
mean,
yeah. What are
I'm
the
laughing.
theories
I'm
about
laughing at what
Venezuela?
Matt's about to say. I'm like eternally.
I'm not sure what I'm gonna say, but the theories are that it's narco
Oil.
terrorism. Of course, then there's oil. That seems like the most rational reason. Um, and then there's the wackadoodle ideas that actually Trump is at war with the CIA and the CIA, and so the battle down there is really against the CIA. And I'm like, do they know where Langley is? Because if they want to go after the CIA, they could literally go down the street and not have to go to Venezuela to take them out.
Well, I don't think they can. I was on a podcast with Consular Luongo and Kerrigan, and Consular said, "Why don't they just get rid of the CIA?" And I go, "Oh, come on, Jim, come on, buddy. The CIA is getting rid of the CIA would be a lot harder than getting rid of the Italian mob. I mean, this is these guys." And he said, "Well, cut off their funding." And we said, "There isn't funding. They don't need
They don't
funding.
need it.
They don't need it at all. It's all black ops. The funding is for public consumption, right? And they can use it for beer money and stuff, right? So
we're supposed to recognize the difficulty of going after them. I got it, but we're supposed to believe that they are in fact going after them in this really oblique way in Venezuela.
We're probably going after the guys who are trying to move in on the CIA's territory in the drug world.
Yeah.
I'm totally dead serious on that. I mean, the CIA, best I can tell, runs most of the drug trafficking, right, with the exception of potentially China and the fentanyl stuff, right? That may be outside the reach of the CIA, but I think the standard drugs are all funneled through the CIA.
Yeah, but again, Venezuela is not even an epicenter of any of that.
Yeah,
I mean, when you got all that oil, it's not the same kind of. You don't have to be so creative and start growing cocaine.
What about the Dominion machines?
Oh, that's a good one. Yes. That's one. Yes, it's after the voting machines, because Venezuela and the voting machines. That's a hilarious one.
But the Smartmatic machines were invented to rig the election in Venezuela. That's what I don't understand.
Who do you suspect?
I'm just gobsmacked. I just can't fathom who it was. And then so when that happened, when the Smartmatic machines came under fire in 2020, and I think the 2020 election rig really was an attempt to keep Trump out of there. I mean, I think there's no question that he was battling the bad guys in that election. But I went to look up Smartmatic when they won. What was it? A $750 million lawsuit or something, was it, against Fox News, which was perfectly timed to get Tucker Carlson off of Fox for the next election, right? It was 2018, I think, so that they could then rig the election. But no, it was
21 or 22
for the 2024 election, I think. But I looked up Smartmatic's share price. They had gone private. Dominion's share price. They had gone private, so there was no share price. That was in 2018, which was timed well. And then I traced Smartmatic Dominion through a subsidiary in Switzerland that ended up in a subsidiary of an organization in Beijing. So Smartmatic was owned by Beijing. Now, I think the settlement was just an excuse to get rid of Tucker, and it was an excuse. Smartmatic, it gave Smartmatic sort of a cover story saying, "Look, see, we're innocent." But I think Smartmatic was totally. They were built to be rigged. They were for rigging.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine that. I don't know. To me, it's hard to imagine that some foreign power had control over the voting systems that we were using in the U.S. That a foreign power, Beijing or anyone, I have a hard time.
Anyone? Really? Anyone?
Other than us? Other than the CIA?
I'm still thinking of a postage stamp sized country.
Okay. Yeah, and then it would be a collaboration.
So people know, Dave, who are you talking about? London?
Israel.
Oh.
Yeah, but it'd be a collaboration. I mean, all the
best. Yeah, no, it would be. It would absolutely be. It would be just AIPAC and the boys, right?
So,
right.
By the way, there are definitely people from the Whitmer thing that are serving time in prison now. There's two guys one guy's got 16 years, another guy's got 19 to 19 and a half years.
Well, it's a state charge, so they can't be pardoned by Trump. That's
my
guess.
Federal.
This is a federal? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's a shame.
Yeah.
It really tells you should do nothing. You should trust. You can't trust anyone. One thing for sure is you should do nothing with the FBI. I actually was approached by an FBI guy to be an informant. I go, why? And the model sounds logical, and that is just having eyes and ears on places like campuses and stuff in case shit's happening. And if the FBI had good intentions, then the model would be fine. even though it's got a little Stasi quality to it. But I was not the right guy because they knew I was too outspoken. But the guy told me that the guys in the FBI, the rank and file, would love to see the heads of the FBI sent to prison. The guys at the top. But he might have also done a quick profile and said, okay, we'll tell Collum this because this is what that boy wants to hear, right?
Yeah.
But you shouldn't go near them because you will go from informant to patsy so fast you won't know what hit you. Tyler Robinson.
What a mess.
Hey, did you see the Jimmy Dore shit about TPUSA and their money laundering corruption problem?
I did actually see that, and that's kind of adds a whole new layer of
it does.
It's
exactly right.
I didn't see that. Can you fill me in?
Well, so apparently TPUSA was sending a lot of checks to a lot of addresses that were vacant lots and things like that. And the claim is that Charlie, there's some supposedly written documentation that Charlie was going to say, we got to dig into what's going on here because something's wrong with the books. And 8 days later, he gets cracked.
Because whoever his COO guy was, who he replaced right before he was assassinated, was apparently the guy in charge of another subsidiary, and there were like $8 million that were funneled into that subsidiary, and it all paid out in salaries.
Yeah, the salaries apparently were outlandish and unexplainable. And so it was a money laundering, right? It was money laundering. Now, again, there's so many problems with the TPUSA story that I don't even know where to start. The one question I've been able to answer was Charlie Kirk a dupe or was he part of it? And I just don't know. But I have spent 3 years reading about MK Ultra, for example. And I'm totally convinced that Erica Kirk is an MK Ultra product. Right? She's a total zombie. She has no capacity for emotion. She has the ability to be actress level, fake it, but she has no capacity for emotion. She didn't give a shit that he got shot. Best I can tell. They met in Israel. She ran a child trafficking company, an orphanage in Romania when she was 17. The story's just all wrong with her. And so, I guess I could be convinced to the contrary, but I wanted to ask Elizabeth Nixon what she thinks of Erica Kirk because she studied it and she's a prominent person. And so I think it's possible. Here's the bizarre possibility is I was on a Zoom call with a couple of MK Ultra victims, a couple of prominent ones. Kathy O'Brien was one of them. Hard to miss her if you studied this stuff. And but one of them, Juliet Engel, said that you can go through life not knowing you are brainwashed. You can actually not realize that you've been through the program. And she became a doctor. And the thing that just made no sense to her, she couldn't remember childhood at all. She had zero memories of childhood, zero. She knew about other stuff. Now, again, the brainwashing, they break your personality into pieces in ways that would make North Koreans wince, right? Yeah. It's the things they do. You go, how could you ever do that to a human being? Yeah. Lots of acid deprivation, torture, satanic bullshit, all sorts of stuff to rip your soul out. And I'm not a religious guy, but I would become one. And then they reassemble you, and you turn out you're a multi-personality person. And so you could be talking to Juliet Engel, the doctor, and she does not know that there's 9 other people in that head of hers. And so the question I now have is, was Charlie also a victim? Because Charlie's got a very opaque history too. For a guy who's famous, you can't find much about Charlie. And I've watched Candace Owens repeatedly looking for her to in some way give me a hint that she knew something was wrong with Charlie. And you say, well, but Charlie was so smart. But they train you, right? The TV show The Americans, which my wife is watching right now. Yeah, I watched some of it. Your job, you get grabbed at 5 years old, they brainwash the shit out of you. They train you to be an assassin, a hooker, or whatever, and they need people with different skills. So it's like a working dog. And it turns out that you could go through not realizing. I once saw a TED Talk by a chick who was making the case that pedophilia was a sexual choice.
Oh, yeah.
And it took me no more than a minute to figure out that she herself had been trafficked based on her personality. There's certain traits that I don't know if they're always there, probably not, but there's somewhere. If you watch interviews of people who've been trafficked, they've got this blandness to their personality, a very flat personality, and they can smile and things like that, but there's just no emotion. You go, well, of course not, right? You've defended against everything imaginable, and so your body has learned to cope, and so you're coping, and you can see it in her. You can see it in this, and she's doing a fucking TED Talk, right? It's like, Jesus Christ, who's doing these invites? And so I think Charlie could be one. I think Charlie could be one.
Well, how many people
I think
out
Erica
there
is.
Yeah, I mean, there's something wrong. There's something that doesn't add up with the way that she behaved publicly after all that. Of course, it seems so obvious.
Did you see the video? The one that tells an unbelievable story is this short little video where Charlie and Erica are having a get together live online, typical thing where we do now, and questions are coming in, and Charlie says, "Oh, here's an easy one," and he asks, he presents it to Erica. He says, "Here's easy ones. How many years have you been married?" It turns out it had been 4 is the answer. They said, "How many years have you been married?" And she kind of paused. You go, "Well, okay, but if you say, okay, we were married in January, that makes, you know how that works, right?" And, but then they said, "What year were you married?" And her answer was exactly like this. She goes, 2021? And I go, there is no chick on the planet who doesn't remember the year they got married.
Yeah.
Especially 4 years out, right? My wife, she might be blocking it out at this point, right? But there could be she could already be through the PTSD of MK Ultra, like brainwashing. But she hesitated, and so I looked at it, I go, "You don't even know what year you were married." And by the way, she won Miss Arizona. You don't win a beauty pageant. You don't walk off the street and win a beauty pageant.
No,
that's like saying it's like saying I walked off the street and I won a concerto competition.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
So the whole thing is fake. Everything's fake.
Well, how
and then
about the
Mikey McCoy, holy shit, what a mess that story is.
Well, he gets on the cell phone right after you talk about.
Yeah. So for those who don't know, we're talking about Mikey McCoy was his right-hand man, absolutely right-hand man, who looks like he has the IQ of about 90. When you listen to me, this guy is not a guy who's sort of running a $150 million operation. This guy's an idiot.
Is he the one that's the son of the pastor?
Yeah, the pastor's the brains in that operation. Mikey's just a youngster to fill the chair, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd trust his father about as far as I can throw him. And but Mikey's standing behind Charlie when he gets shot. He's about 15 feet back. He's so far back that you're not even sure he has a view of Charlie directly, even though I think he does, but he's behind him. So he's like a 45-degree angle back, maybe 15 feet. And Candace did a great job on this. Boy, they're trying to demonize her. She timed it. When Charlie got shot, Mikey had his phone up to his ear in 834 milliseconds, less than a second. And which means he didn't dial anyone. He was already on the phone with someone, and he literally turns around and walks out of sight. And he is out of sight before Charlie hits the floor. So he didn't even look around and go, holy fuck, and then go. He literally just turned and walked, and Charlie was still toppling.
Yeah.
Anyone want to, I'll send this to you. This shit's, and he keeps walking. He's not running. There's no sign of panic. Methodically walk. He walks like 150 yards past the van, which they put Charlie into, which is absolutely breaking every rule of healthcare. The one thing you don't do is take a guy who's been shot, who's potentially bleeding out, and pick him up and carry him somewhere. You try to put pressure on the wound right there. The guys who are working on him, this is so amazing. God, I love
no
this
blood
shit.
on their hands, right?
Well, but the guys who are actually working on him, they have what's called duper's delight. They're smirking. So I don't care who actually shot him. I know Tyler Robinson didn't.
Yeah.
I bet you they sent him to the roof and said, we want you to take photos. And so they teed him up like Lee Harvey Oswald. And so nothing about the story fits together. It's like Las Vegas shooting sort of stuff.
Did you see that Milo, you watch him on Tim Pool the other night, or see the clips where he was saying that Charlie hasn't been buried?
I did see that. There was no autopsy. A massively public assassination. They don't even do an autopsy.
And flown out on Air Force Two.
That I can live with. In fact,
Yeah,
that was very
weird.
well,
It's a little
yes,
weird.
yeah. Except for Charlie was getting into the Oval Office, right? He was getting it.
Is there another example of anybody being flown out? I mean,
Well, except don't forget, Trump is the greatest of showmen to ever be in the White House.
yeah.
So Trump would spot that opportunity.
Yeah.
Now, they
Yes, I
did
guess
have
so.
Cardinal Stadium reserved months in advance.
Yeah. There are all kinds of other problems, even if that one, I guess, is rational, you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah, there's so many problems. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Where are we going to see the trial of Tyler Robinson? Are we going to see it, or is he going to commit suicide in a cell somewhere?
Bannon was saying that they'll plea it out, that it more than likely won't go to trial.
It's like Sirhan.
I mean, when when the feds come after you, most people do just plead. They don't go to trial because it's like you can have we're going to take your entire life from you, or we can give you can still get out, when you're 50 years old.
Not on that assassination.
Yeah,
So
I
he'd
think
be
so.
pleading out to not get executed. I personally would not want to plea out I would not want to plea out to not get executed.
Yeah.
I don't think I want to.
There's a federal death penalty still?
I don't know, but I don't
there-
want to spend the rest of my life in jail.
Yeah, no, me either.
What was in Utah? I think Utah has the death penalty, because wasn't the governor very adamant about that when he was making his?
Oh, state charges. Okay.
There must be a betting parlor somewhere about what the odds that he doesn't make it to trial.
Yeah, I
Right,
should check Polymarket.
Polymarket, yeah, I was trying to think of it. Polymarket, they bet on everything, so
Yeah.
so there's got to be an odds on him not making it to trial, which is so common that the guys kill themselves. The Epstein story is by far the exception. It's just he was the famous guy to whack himself in prison. Or not.
Allegedly.
Allegedly, yeah. I'm convinced. Yeah, I know.
You also
God,
look at the turning point stuff, though, too, is like, when I talk to regular people about this, it's amazing, like, the impact that Charlie's death has had on, especially being here in Phoenix. And I'm like, didn't you find the optics of Erica's photo in front of the coffin the day after? Don't you find that kind of weird? And they're like, no. And I'm like, what about the video where the daughter, which you don't see her face, is in the passenger side, front seat, driving by Turning Point, and the little girl's like, "Daddy, Daddy, Daddy," with a Coldplay song
No, she
playing.
didn't say that. No, that's not what she said.
What'd she say? That's what
She said,
I thought.
No. This is critically important. She didn't say Daddy. She said Charlie Kirk.
Oh, you're right.
Now,
The daughter?
the daughter said. They pull up to TPUSA and she starts acting excited, which, by the way, you only see her from the back because there are no photos of the kids from the front ever, for reasons that are, I think, very complicated. And she gets excited and she goes, "Oh, Charlie Kirk, Charlie Kirk." The
Now,
daughter.
how old is this daughter?
Three.
My kids definitely did not know my name when they're 3.
That's right. You were dad.
Yeah.
You were dad. You're dad the whole fucking way. My kids do not say Dave Collum. That's how I don't quite understand the Trump family when they talk about President Trump. That must be hard. That must be President Trump. That guy. I remember him beat me in the ass one day. It pissed me off.
Well, and I was trying to look up the Coldplay song because it's one of those emotional Coldplay songs.
Search Charlie Kirk's children and see if you can find a photo that's definitively them from the front.
Never. We've talked about that before. Can't find it.
Yeah.
And they're family photos where they're each holding a kid and the kids are facing the wrong way.
Right.
So if you're gonna take that photo, why bother take the photo if the kids are facing the wrong way? And then there's some with Photoshops covering the faces. I think the kids are a prop, and I don't think they want to have to carry the kids through their life as Charlie Kirk's former children.
The song is "Fix You." Coldplay "Fix You" is what was playing in that video.
Give me the meaning of that. I don't know the song.
You're broken. Fix you.
Okay.
I can pull up the lyrics, but anybody knows Coldplay knows that song. I mean,
So then there's Rob McCoy who talked about how his son Mikey was totally on the ball and he was covered with blood. And,
the hero.
And then the hero, and then Mikey had to go on and say, "I don't know why my dad said that. He must have been confused in the excitement of the moment." And I'm going, "No, you guys just didn't write out the plot carefully enough." TPUSA is involved in this somehow. TPUSA is dirty as shit.
Well, they certainly have been covering it up. No doubt about that. There's been a real effort to cover things up. So,
and then they offered Candace Owens to come and debate them at a specific time at their site, and she's gone, no, let me zoom it in. And, oh no, we can't do that. We need it to be sincere and honest. And it's like, yeah, let's try. Yeah, no, you're just making it hard for her to get there. And by the way, I would not go to the TPUSA headquarters if I were Candace Owens, because getting out of there might be a bit of a problem, right? Rob McCoy might greet you at the door.
Well, they got Amfest. It's next weekend here.
And guess who's talking there?
Tucker.
No.
Yeah, he is.
Is he really?
Yeah, he's still headlining it because people were calling for him to be removed. But unless something's changed, as far as I know, he's still headlining.
They might have decided they couldn't do anything. Who else is there?
Oh, there's a whole list. Steve Bannon.
Ben Shapiro. Steve
Bannon. It's sold out. You can't. The whole event is sold out. 3 days.
Oh,
4 days.
What a shit! That would be fun to go to, right? Just to see how they handle shit. I'm dying to see what Tucker says, because why do you think Tucker's picking these fights? Because they're unbelievably brutal fights he's picking. Why is he doing it?
What would be the latest example of that you would say?
Well, the latest example is he's going, he makes John Mearsheimer look like Shrinking Violet with respect to Israel.
Yeah.
Tucker just goes in and says it's an insignificant country. I mean, he really is brutal on him. And he's gone after satanic cults now. He's gone after 9/11, right? He's picking fights on every one of these narratives.
But his 9/11, I didn't watch the entire thing. It was a
lousy documentary.
He went he didn't go all the way.
No. In fact, it was potentially interesting if you'd already seen the other ones, because it kind of filled in some of the stuff that they didn't, and it added credibility to some of the stuff that they did. But something like the new Pearl Harbor was way better.
Yeah.
If you haven't watched the new Pearl Harbor, it's 3.5 hours. You will come out of there. You will not possibly imagine that it was anything but a setup attack on the Twin Towers and that they were brought down. Period.
Right. And if they will do that, then
they'll do anything.
What won't they do? Yes.
Apparently balance the budget.
So it's just not on their checklist. It's just not a priority.
Does turning?
You can't say it. We'll worry about procrastination in the morning.
Exactly. Does Turning Point survive, in your guys' view?
I don't think so.
I I think that they're going to get. I think they're getting crushed now. I mean, I don't. I think a lot of people have to. I mean, I know there are people who just cannot literally imagine the evil that's out there. So it's just too hard. Any of the accusations.
I think that's right.
There.
I think that's right.
So they just can't imagine.
So again, back to the satanic cult stuff. It absolutely is true. It unambiguously is true. The breadth and the scope is very hard to get your brain around. So like Son of Sam was multiple shooters. It was a satanic cult. The Finders. There's so many of them out there. But if you take an average person, you throw them into the deep end of that pool, they will just not be able to process it because of the shit that gets done to children. Pizzagate, I think, is real.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah. So okay. So we know all these bad things are happening. All these big events are fake. 9/11, the Charlie Kirk, in one form. Not to say he didn't die, but the whatever we're told about is not real. You brought up the Las Vegas shooting, the Oklahoma City bombing, COVID. You could go down lots of things. So, I mean, they're all over. So,
name a narrative that's important that you believe is that.
What's real?
The problem is that any big event, government will optimize the story. Period.
Yeah.
I was on, again, Luongo, Kunstler, Kerrigan, which I do often. They said that Marjorie Taylor Greene quitting was horrible. And I said, you don't know what she's going through. You do not know what she's going through. It came from a tweet. The topic came up because I think it was Posobiec or Cernovic said you should have stayed to the end of your term. And she said, you want me to get treated like Charlie Kirk? You didn't understand what it's like. Yeah, she used that analogy, right? Which adds yet another layer to the Kirk story, right? When she's talking about her and Charlie Kirk, that tells you she thinks it's something big. I think that shooting was geopolitically a huge event. And we got in a fight and it got tense. And I said, you don't know what she's going through. You don't know the pain and suffering. What they didn't know, I've waffled back and forth about whether I'm going to write my annual review. And the problem I'm having is that it's been a rough year for just all these reasons we talk about. Way too much noise. I can't figure out what's true. Battling with the Zionists because of the Tucker interview, all that crap. The problem is that to write that thing, I have to be on my A+ game just to pull it off. And for those who don't know what I'm talking about, it's 250 to 300 pages written at the end of the year. And so I was hitching like a short circuiting robot. And I just was not able to get to my A game. And every time I wrote about a story, I'd go, shit, it goes back to Israel. Right. And I had the president of a National Jewish Society call me a Holocaust denying Nazi. Yes. So I've written about it. And so I was on a podcast yesterday. Yeah, yesterday. And I said, they were praising the thing, saying, everyone in finance, everyone reads it. Anyone reads it. And I said, I'm not going to write it. I apologize. And they were like, it takes a huge amount of understanding. But then I got off and I felt like I wanted to slice my wrists. So what I did right after the podcast is I sat down and started writing again. And it's going to be highly truncated. And I'm going to avoid a couple of topics.
You were equating this, though, to Marjorie Taylor Greene in some way.
Right. So I'm sitting there trying to figure out if any of what I do is worth it. Mm-hmm. And they're ripping me and saying, and I don't want to criticize these guys because they're at some level we're taking the high road. They're saying, well, she's just a coward if she doesn't finish. I go, she didn't sign up for the Navy SEALs, right? She signed up to be in Congress, and her boss has turned on her. And they go, it's not her boss.
Viciously.
They go, it's not her boss. I said, yeah, it is her boss. Trump is her boss. And she was, if there was anyone.
The most loyal Trump supporter of anybody. Yeah.
And then he turned on her. It's like, I'm out. And I was the only one. Kunstler, I think, kind of understood. Kunstler was much more neutral, but Luongo and Kerrigan were really ripping me. And again, if you guys are listening to this podcast, I'm not trying to criticize you. It was very tense exchange. I said, I think you guys are all fucked up on this one. You don't know what it's like. The problem was I was in the middle of a battlefield myself. At that point, without conveying it. And last time we chatted, we chatted about how I had stayed agnostic about Israel for my entire life, and most of it was sympathetic to the idea of being surrounded by your enemies, right? It seemed like an easy case to make, right? And I think what happened, and now the irony is I'm not going to write much about Israel. But as I go on podcasts, I am more vocal against them. So I don't quite know why I'm willing to talk about them, but not write about them. But the guy so I'm sitting there hearing that Marjorie Taylor Greene's a coward, and I'm about to quit on something far less significant. And so that's what I think was making me crazy.
I kind of feel like if you have a job, a responsibility, and you can no longer honorably do it, you have an obligation to resign.
Here's an analogy in academia. You get tenure, you lose your funding, you're dysfunctional. You should get another job.
Yeah.
Not walk the hallways in a bathrobe shouting at phantoms because you're a broken person. You should just get another job.
Right.
So in any event, so the Israel thing. So I have written about the Tucker interview, the aftermath, the guys who attacked me, the guy who called me a Nazi Holocaust denier, the president of a national Jewish organization, big one. And so I do attack him. I attack them all, actually. In fact, Victor Davis Hanson was going at me repeatedly.
Yeah.
And he was wrong. He was wrong on all counts. He was factually wrong. And
you must know that he must know that.
He must, and he, like I quoted Patton, and he conceded it was a Patton quote. But he said, but that was after the war. And I go, fucking A, Victor. What kind of crap argument is that? So it turns out I found a blog by a no-name who after I finished writing, did a beautiful job of talking about how disingenuous Hanson was.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't partisan. He just went through Hanson's arguments and said, this is not legit. This is not legit. This is not legit. So I reached out to him and thanked him. But the point being is, they've lost me, right? So I am now antagonistic to Israel at a level that's hard to imagine now. Now, here's what I think happened. I think Israel had done a good job of faking most of what they did. Now, we know they tried to sink the Liberty. They were probably dancing Israeli somewhere. There are things that they've done that are sort of the cruel world we live in crap. And the USS Liberty, if listeners don't know what I'm talking about, go on YouTube, get a documentary. They tried to sink our fucking ship knowingly, ruthlessly, shockingly.
And there are people alive today who could testify to it.
They have. And the U.S. government covered it all up. And they broke all the idea of like sinking the cigar boat and then shooting the guys. That's exactly what they did. They tried to kill everyone who was a potential survivor to get us into a thermonuclear war with goddamn Egypt. Now, the thermonuclear part is speculative. The rest is not. It's absolutely fact. And so I'm sitting there going, okay, I have a problem with these guys at this point. And what changed for Israel, in my opinion, is October 7th. So it happened on October 7th, in my opinion, and I can document the shit out of this too, using articles from the Times of Israel. I mean, this is absurd. That there was a stand-down order. That's what Charlie Kirk said, by the way. But there was a stand-down order to let these guys. Of course there was a stand-down order. If you dropped 800 of any. You could drop 800 Navy SEALs into Israel, and if they didn't like them there, they'd be dead in 10 fucking minutes. Right? You don't run around raping women and killing children for 8 hours. In Israel. The one thing I respect Israel for more than anything is their capacity to protect themselves. They couldn't possibly have missed the attack. In fact, there were people repeatedly telling the authorities in Israel there is going to be an attack, and these people would be told to shut the hell up. They moved the concert right to the border's edge. They moved the troops away from the concert. The whole thing is a mess. Okay, so it's just a classic false flag. But what changed is that from that point on, no criticism of Israel was tolerated. Do you remember when Epstein killed himself? And everyone said Epstein's Mossad. So there was no pushback against that. No one said, "Oh, you anti-Semite saying Epstein's Mossad." No one even questioned it.
No, but here's one interesting thing. I agree with you with what you're saying, but one of the things that I've noticed is that it wasn't that long ago.
I can still hear you. I got to get something.
Yeah, okay. It wasn't long ago that I would say zero criticism was allowed, and my example of this is Kanye West.
Exactly.
I mean, Kanye got Kanye'd. He lost his $1 billion Adidas deal. He lost everything. They destroyed him, and he didn't say anything except he was noticing that all the counterparties on his label contracts happened to be of a certain group.
Ethnic persuasion, right?
And that's what he said. He wouldn't even be specific. And so he got banished from Twitter for that. They went after him, tried to destroy him in every conceivable way, and he's still gone from it. Really, he's gone.
So here's the problem. There are, and I did this in a podcast the other day. This is why I think the fact that I'm filtering in my written document is causing me to want to talk more in podcast form. What was I going to say?
Well, actually, let me finish my point about the Kanye thing, though. That was before October 7th.
Well before.
Okay? But since then, at some point, my feed started to get filled with anti-Semitic stuff on Twitter.
You mean people hateful of Israel?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'm like, why are they allowing this? Why is this
too voluminous to stop?
No. I mean, it's a couple of keywords. It's like, it's obvious stuff. I mean, you don't need. It's not. But in my mind, I feel like whatever.
Well, I'll tell you why.
Fed to me.
If you're trying to build a case that anti-Semitism is on the rise.
Yeah. So to me, but you got to imagine for Jews who are just normal Jews, right? They didn't see all this, and it must scare the shit out of them.
It should. Yeah, it absolutely should.
Because like all of a sudden people everywhere are saying wild stuff, everywhere, all the time. So it's like this is the information war. I mean, it's like as we talked about before, in end times prophecy, you're supposed all the nations of the world are supposed to hate
that
Israel.
rattled my cage when you told me that, by the way. There's a guy named Eric Rice. Mike, do you know Eric Rice?
I don't.
Eric Rice, you ought to have him on your podcast. Eric Rice does podcasts, and he's done 15 startup companies, and he's a minister. And he knows the satanic religious stuff encyclopedically. It's really, boy, when I do podcasts with him, it goes into bizarre waters. There are layers to this onion. Jews are both a religion, a culture, whatever. To say you don't like Jews is really mindless.
Yes.
I don't even have a problem with Zionists, provided that it's some sort of moderate view of how it should be. I can imagine it being the equivalent of secessionists or whatever. But then you end up at the final. You got the country of Israel, which is filled, I'm sure, with lovely people. You've got the government of Israel, which I'm convinced is filled with probably fairly ruthless people. And then you've got the rabid Zionists, which I think are the real problem. Mm-hmm. They're the ones who are, someone said to me, I will not name them because I don't want to drag them into this one. He said, you can't imagine the level of commitment they can outcommit you. And you know why, right? It's a long history, years. But think of the burden. So let's say you're a kid and you're Jewish and it's a very close culture, right? They've been very careful to make sure that they maintain their Jewishness. You know, I go back to Kmart. I have no idea what my origins are. That doesn't happen with Jews, right? They're careful to maintain Judaism. And imagine you're a kid though, and you're told everyone's against you.
One day they're going to come for you.
That's right, and you can't trust anyone. And that would be like raising a white kid and say the blacks are going to try to kill you. Right? If you go down the street, he might look like he's okay, but he's black, and statistically, he's much more probable to kill you than a white guy. That this is a burden that you're putting on a kid. That I don't think you should. I think the idea of keeping history alive so we don't forget is okay. But I think it's sort of like racism. You know, Morgan Freeman said, you know, stop talking about it.
Yeah, I know there's some inflicting of trauma on, you know, all future generations when you do this too much.
That's
obviously.
exactly right. So there's some happy medium. There's some don't forget, but move forward combination that I don't know. Now, if this conversation pisses someone off, I don't care at this point. I had a long talk with my wife last night, and I said, I somehow have to get by this. And once I do, then hopefully I'm just going to stop. I'm just going to somehow tune it out and go back to, you know, picking up cat memes. And
you got to get past it.
I do have to get past it.
Yeah.
But you know, when you got Mark Levin and Ted Cruz and shit on a daily basis hammering your ass.
Yeah, I can't even imagine the stuff that you've had to deal with this,
but
honestly.
Then I look at John Mearsheimer and I go, man, Dave, you are a total fucking pussy compared to that guy.
He's just somebody who's gotten past it.
He's gotten past it while staying in the fight.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because you don't have to, he makes his statements in a very factual way. There's no emotion involved with it. And he's like, here's the way it is. So I think
he must have been brutalized, though. He has to have been brutalized because he also wrote against NATO and the Ukraine war. He was one of my best sources when I wrote about the Ukraine war. I mean, the guys, Jeff Sachs, same thing. Sachs not only battled Ukraine, not only is battling Israel, but is also chaired a committee to figure out where the fucking coronavirus came from. And on the committee was Peter Daszak and these guys. And he said it took them a year to figure out they were lying their asses off to him. Now, I think Sachs has got a gullible streak in him or something. At one point, we were in an email exchange, and he said, this is when, what's her face? That black chick who shouldn't have a PhD even, let alone being president of Harvard. What was her name? President of Harvard who got fired.
Claudine Gay.
Claudine Gay, yeah. And it was during that. And he said, well, at least we're not university presidents. A friend of mine's Cornell's president. I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy.
I want to shift
away from Israel just to keep on YouTube.
No. We're talking about it for 35 minutes.
It's allowed now, though. That's the thing. It's allowed. Why is it allowed? Why is it allowed?
It's an interesting question. It's an interesting question that I hadn't thought too hard about.
And this is what concerns me about getting on the side of even arguing the points that you're arguing, because I feel like I'm supporting some
you're playing into it
larger narrative that's supposed to be
it's a good guy, bad guy thing, right, Matt? I mean, it comes back to the whole.
Yeah. And but this is like going on the most sensitive area of the most like potentially violent area, to focus in on.
Which was not allowed at all for a while, and all of a sudden now it's everywhere. Right? Yeah, there was a phase change.
Something changed, and it wasn't an accident, and it wasn't organic.
So in the part I was going to write about Israel and about the whole October 7th thing, and I've got a draft. I'm not going to use it. And I looked up Zionist because I didn't actually know what it was. This is how I couldn't possibly be a real sort of rabid anti-Semite because I don't understand anything. I didn't even know which of my colleagues were Jewish for about 20 years. And I looked up Zionists. I go, okay, Doesn't seem nuts to me. And then for laughs, I looked up boomer. And I don't know why, because I was looking for the age bracket for some paragraph somewhere, and it was nothing but horrid negative statements about what a bunch of douchebags they are, and there was nothing about it being a demographic group. There's one
Really?
tiny snippet. The whole thing was just horse shit. And then I wrote in the usual column-esque way. I said, imagine if you were a Jewish boomer.
Oh my God.
And so I wrote a definition of a Jewish boomer, and I think I called it a Joomer. And then I wrote a definition that had sort of combined the two original definitions. I thought it was funnier than shit, but I just not convinced that the Jews of the world would find it as funny as I did.
I doubt it.
I don't know. I think at least half of Israel's got to think, what the fuck are you doing?
Oh yeah,
right?
yeah.
Well,
yeah,
Netanyahu's asking for pardons.
Well, Trump on his behalf.
Right. Well, they're saying we won't send you jets if you don't pardon Netanyahu, right? That's ultimately what they're trying to do. I love Dershowitz talking about how he was Epstein's lawyer before Epstein, blah, blah, blah. They go, well, why were you his lawyer then? Right. I don't have a lawyer. Because I'm not committing crimes.
Yeah. There's no. You don't have people on retainer. Come on.
I don't have Alan Dershowitz on retainer, Mr. Pizza Boy.
So sorry, you wanted to switch to something else, Mike.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I could go forever.
I wanted to talk about. I want to talk about Michael Burry's recent interview, short interview, and talking about what his thoughts were on Bitcoin and the government debt. Which I thought, where he was saying how, trying to predict when the debt bomb might occur is like trying to predict Castro's death. Did you guys listen to that conversation?
Yeah, that was very clever. Yeah.
I've listened to some Burry. I'm not sure I've listened to an interview of Burry.
It's just
from
like
a week he's ago. Only done one interview that I'm aware of at all, except for that 60-minute interview back in the day. And it was Michael Lewis had him on for like 30 minutes. And,
I saw a clip from the Lewis interview. I saw a clip, but it was just a short. Burry may not be as mystically, magically good as people say. He did make a great call, but to put him in the Jesus Christ category, just to make sure we stay really religious and offensive, he won't necessarily get everything right, and a lot of people are critical. Of course, the guys who are critical own NVIDIA.
Which is everybody.
And Palantir.
Which is everybody. And Palantir. Oh, don't go there, Michael. And so I don't know. I've been calling catastrophic economic and equity asset class demise for years now.
Not quite as long as Doug, but yes.
Yeah, Doug. Yeah, I know. Years. Doug is measured in eons. I have not reached out to Doug, by the way. I will. I do want to meet with him and chat with him and
he'd really enjoy talking to you.
Yeah, we should do a Zoom call.
Yeah, I can organize it if you like.
You organize that, I'll be on it. I'll be there.
Okay.
There's a bunch of people I'm supposed to reach out to.
What about, did you see Jensen Huang was on Rogan?
What a douchebag.
Well, I
just love his sweet leather jacket. I think it's so cool.
How about the first 10 minutes of the conversation? I didn't get all the way through it, but he was talking about him and Trump were hanging out, and they decided to call Joe. See the beginning of that?
Jensen Huang is on the homepage of Yahoo Finance every day. Tell me that's not a bubble. Tell me, please. Well, I was on a panel discussion in New Orleans with guys who are way more qualified than me, which has never stopped me from disagreeing with them. And two of the four said that AI was not a bubble. Now, by the time they were done explaining it, I said, wait a minute. How do you not call that a bubble? What you just described as a bubble. And they were talking about it being a pioneering technology. And I go, well, it could still be a bubble. Yeah. The internet was a bubble in 2000. Here's a stat for you. Gundlach said this. This is really a great historical nugget. as he says, electricity is the most transformational thing ever invented, right? Is there something that's more transformational than that? I don't think so.
No.
Right? The hot and cold running electricity. The electricity stocks, of course, did well. They peaked in 1911. That's awfully early in the electricity story. That tells you that if you somehow think that you're going to make a ton of money off AI as it gets more advanced, the high could be in your rearview mirror.
Yeah. And I think people just have a hard time for some reason separating AI from the investment bubble that is AI. I don't know why people, for some reason, even people who are focused on the financial markets will often conflate these two things somehow.
I don't see how you can possibly. I just made a table. I'm going to bring it up for you. I'm sorry to do this to you. I don't have to show it. I can. No, I made a table. It's part of my valuations chapter, which, as I said, I started to rewrite again yesterday after I wanted to commit suicide when I told them I wasn't going to write anything. NVDA. Boom, boom. Okay, so I made a table in which I tracked the revenue and the market cap of the Mag 7 over the last 10 years. The question is, how did we get to such a precarious state? And the Mag 7, and I use market cap rather than price because market cap includes potential share shrinkage from buybacks, which, by the way, does include potential destruction of the balance sheet due to buybacks. And I don't know how to get at that. So I like IBM went like 40 billion in the hole trying to save their share price. So I just went with market cap. And so by Alphabet revenue, 80% in 10 years, 700% growth in market cap. Amazon, 550% revenue, 1,500% market cap. I'll send this to you if you want. You don't have to write this down. Just write down a note to send me an email.
Okay.
Apple, 90% revenue growth, 800% growth in market cap. Microsoft, 230%, 1,000% growth in market cap. NVIDIA, 2,300% growth in revenue. 25,000% growth in market cap. And Tesla, which is the best, ironically, because I think its revenue was so shitty. 1,300% growth in revenue, 5,000% growth in market cap. That is the expansion. Now,
the only one I have one exception. Microsoft 10 years ago was undervalued.
Maybe so.
Yeah, but that's the only one of those.
Yeah, I know. It was tempting. I must admit it was tempting.
Yeah.
JP Morgan, I did a couple more for fun. JP Morgan, 90% revenue, 330% market cap. Dell, I put this on Twitter and Michael Dell responded. And he just kind of poked at me because I said from 2015 to 2025, they went public again 2016. So he says, what was the share price in 2015, which was just him being a punk ass bitch? I said, I'm aware you weren't trading in 2015. And, but what is he doing responding to me? I don't know. Dell, 80% gain in revenue, 1,000% gain in market cap. Broadcom.
I honestly kind of thought Dell was dead, actually, because I hadn't owned a Dell or bought it.
Okay, let's
at least a decade.
Let me finish this, and then I want to go to the next topic. Broadcom, 750% gain in revenue. Good job, guys. 5,300% gain in market cap. Now, I went back to 2015, the year that these growth started, and I read my year in review, and I made a compelling case that the markets had gotten all fucked up again. I've got quotes from legends saying, here we are again. We're looking into the abyss again. You know, big guys, Gundlach, Jimmy Rogers saying, what the fuck we did this again? And so you say, and then from that date to the present, the expansion of the market has, so the in the last 40 years, market valuation, which is the price of it over something that it ought to track. So it takes out inflation, book, revenues, earnings, you name it. I follow about 25 of them, has compounded 4% a year for 40 years. People don't realize that that's going to go backwards someday. I don't know when, but when that goes backwards, boomers getting old is going to start it, right? It's going to be an uninvestable market for decades potentially, unless we get our asses kicked royally, and then it will become investable.
Well,
I think we're going to rot it.
This is where Matt, the conversation now, we're coming up almost on a full year from February. Well, you were talking about the global monetary reset and what they're attempting to do. How do you feel about what they've done since we spoke about it?
Well, they've fucked a lot of stuff up since we talked about it.
To use the technical language. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, tariffs could be used as an effective tool, but as a blunt instrument, randomly scattered in the way that it was, is just
changing daily.
Right, making it impossible to plan or do anything, which is why you see everything slowing down in the U.S. because people can't make any decisions on anything. So that was a mistake the way that they've gone about that. But clearly, I will say, you look at the way gold has moved this year. I think that validates it completely, and I think
bet you Doug has some gold.
Yeah, yeah, and honestly, this is for me personally in my personal portfolio, best year I've ever had.
It is my best since I was a tech bull in the late '90s. I know that seems impossible to fathom, but I was. I had an in excess of 100% year one of those years.
I was up over 100% this year.
Oh, then you're way out over your skis on that. I'm up 65%. I'm up 65% on the risk assets. I also have fixed income and some housing and shit like that.
I've got a ranch, but I don't have any of that other stuff. I'm definitely not. I'm unreasonably allocated.
Right.
Irresponsibly, one might say.
So what else, Matt, has stood out to you for this year?
Okay. Well, let's see. So the biggest thing, I think the biggest and most important thing that you can look at and count on as being real is the price in gold. I think that's one of the few things you can see that is real, and where the markets do seem to be working, and I think that it is almost as though all the efforts, there was always years and years of accusations of gold suppression for years. I don't even know what to make of them. Sure, I don't know. It's beyond my ability to really understand. But whatever they are, they either don't work anymore, or they aren't trying anymore, or for whatever reason, gold is really appreciating substantially. And of course, there's all the central bank buying and Tether, which is wild actually to think of, the largest private holder of gold in the world. So, and I think that is fundamentally validating the idea that we are going into a currency reset for sure. I don't see how timing, you never know, but I think that gold is telling the story.
Silver?
Does Tether risk? Tether, my understanding is, backs the Tether with treasuries and takes the profits and pockets them and invests them in risk assets. Is that correct?
That's the way I understand it, but they're never audited. We don't really know. It's just the information.
So then the question is, could Tether become a failed system that blows the heck up in a Madoff style, where they started pirating stuff because their risk assets went to shit? And if we have a serious downturn, couldn't Tether risk breaking the buck real hard without letting people know?
I don't. From what I haven't really analyzed their attestations, I guess, that they make about what their balance sheet looks like, but from what I understand, that they are very well capitalized. Their business is so profitable. It's almost like printing money, what they've been able to do. Let's just hope they weren't actually printing money. That's when it's a problem, right. But the profits are massive. Actually, I think it's made every bank in the world look like our business is shit. We should be in their business.
Yeah, but it is, we are right now in an upswing. So that's where you don't get corpses floating to the surface. The corpses float to the surface when you go in a downswing.
Yeah, but I don't think the risk assets, they're probably the riskiest stuff is Bitcoin that they have, which they recognize
Oh,
that
they're
risk, I
buying
think.
gold and stuff. They're buying gold and gold equities and
Yeah, but I was saying that in terms of the things that I would classify as more risky in their spectrum of all the things that they own, I would say that Bitcoin is the riskiest
right,
thing that they own. You
right.
know, I mean, they're buying royalty companies, well, so not to say that's not risky, but this is a small percentage of what they have overall. I mean, they are big treasury holders.
But
So I don't,
my understanding is that there's a hard line separating what's backing the tether and what
yeah.
they're using to make money. My concern would be that they get their ass kicked on their stuff and they start tapping into, they cross that line.
But on the stable coins themselves, it is backed primarily by treasuries.
But
So
it's
I don't,
unaudited. You
right, we
sell
don't know that.
treasuries
Yeah.
to you sell treasuries to buy more Bitcoin on dips, and then it dips some more, right? That's what I worry about.
Yeah, but like when you have such an amazing business, I don't even know if you'd be so tempted to do that. It's not like I mean they print money as it is,
Right.
So it's like it's not, there are so many other businesses that I'd be way more worried about with fraud because the business model isn't that great and the temptation is greater, with like Carvana or somebody like that,
Right.
then I would be worried about Tether with it. But of course, we don't really know anything about Tether and the balance sheet, whatever it is. All I know is that they've never been a real problem for the state, so I figure they'd be
Well, they're a
supported.
plus for the state now. I mean, even Bissent has said, look, it's a, you know, the stable coin, what, $2 trillion bid for
That's what they hope.
treasuries. That's
Yeah,
what they
that's what they
hope.
hope.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
mean, the fact that when all the state was cracking down on crypto, they never really put pressure on Tether ever. And so to me, that's a sign that like they're state backed in some way already. The
Right.
right
Right.
people are in it from the beginning.
Right.
So I don't know if that's the biggest risk in the financial markets. I don't think
So
that's the
who
big one.
owns Tether? Who owns Tether?
I can't remember the guys' names actually. I mean, I know they have like
Is it
30
a
or 40.
small handful of? Okay, so they're making a ton of money then.
I mean, it's an unbelievable business. I mean, they like way more than Citibank makes, you know, and
So
there's no one board.
Put on your list to get me to send you an essay by Tony Deaton.
Yeah, I'd
Did
like to
I?
see that too.
Yeah.
What
Yeah,
about
you just.
what about silver?
I mean, it was up to $60 today. So what can you say about it? It's a very important metal. Unlike gold, which actually isn't important except for money, silver is super important.
And it's no reason to believe it's going to get less important in solar panels, every electronic device known to man,
Yep.
and and there's
I
another
mean,
solar panels. Um, there's a third.
everything. If you're conducting electricity through it, you like
It's
having
got
silver
silver.
there.
It's got
Yeah.
silver. Yeah, platinum is the one that I've been really bullish on.
Yeah. I mean,
Platinum's a bull case. Platinum's not a momentum case. It's not a price is going up and therefore you should buy it because the price will keep going up case. Um, Platinum has a profound above ground supply short. A that it has a deficit production, and it comes out of South Africa, which we all know could turn into a zero production place real fast.
yeah.
And
But it's a
so
bet on autos. It's a bet on the auto market,
it is a
right?
bet on the auto market, yeah. But when the auto market tanks, it tanks, and I mean, people still have to have cars, and they still have to replace catalytic converters when they're messed up and things like that.
Yeah. This
So,
is a base. It's not going to go away, but yeah.
well,
But Yeah, I don't know. That's the thing that makes it way more complicated in my mind. And obviously, you've been right about it this year. I mean, it's up like almost not what
80%. Yeah.
90% year to date is what it is now. Yeah,
Yeah. After being flat for a decade. I mean, flat
yeah,
as in it looked like it was pinned at 900 plus or minus. I mean,
yeah.
it really looked pegged as though
Yeah,
maybe we would do it to keep the Russians from making money off their platinum mines, which they're about 10% of the platinum market.
hmm.
South Africa is about 70. And so I would buy the metal, not the equities, because I think the equities, the mines could get confiscated. They're all in South Africa. The price of platinum will go up if the mines hit a brick wall.
Do you think platinum has more upside from here than silver?
I don't know. Platinum used to be much more expensive than gold.
Way more. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So the question is, I also have a plot that I dug out that shows the relative availability of above ground supplies of the various metals, and platinum you can't even see at the bottom of the bar graph. It's just this tiny little,
It's
you
low.
literally at current prices a modest sized hedge fund could buy every ounce of platinum. It's something like $4 billion worth of platinum total.
Hmm.
That's a pretty bullish case, because if some guy like Dalio decides they should go long platinum, they will send that price through the roof.
Hmm.
So, and China apparently is buying it. So, because one of the claims is that China has so many cardiovascular problems from their pollution that they actually are going to start getting serious about catalytic converters and things like that.
Well, I mean, they've gone so far down the road of the EV route.
Right.
Honestly, I
I think
mean, they're
hybrids are better. That's my bet.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I don't know the electric because all the problems are being solved with the electrics. Like, I
Right.
mean,
Right.
CATL is producing today a sodium ion battery, which basically has none of the.
Oh,
They're producing it. I mean,
is
they're
it heavier than
manufacturing it at
shit? Is
scale.
it heavier than hell? We tried to hire
Um,
a chick who wanted to work on sodium batteries. I so wanted to get her to come
but
here.
the thing is, no fire risk. There's plenty of sodium. You know, it doesn't have problems charging in cold weather or maintaining its charge like lithium does.
Oh,
I
is
mean,
that right? I didn't know that part. You,
yeah.
you know
So
what? You know that's shocking. I don't know that
because you
because
don't
one
have
could
one.
make one could make the argument that between lithium and sodium, I am certainly one of the world leaders in organic chemistry on those two
Yeah,
metals.
those
So I
two.
should know that those two.
Huh.
And I don't own lithium. I don't own sodium, but organosodium. Here's the surreal thing. This is just a organosodium reagents are viciously reactive, and you like that because it's like top of the food chain, right? It's the shark, and so you get all sorts of energy out of a viciously reactive reagent. Sodium is so cheap that if you buy a 100-pound bag, the bag costs more than the sodium chloride in it, right? And
Right.
and 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 there's enough sodium to supply the world from ultra pure mines for 1,000 years. I mean, it's never going to go away.
So
And
imagine what this does to the price of EVs. That's the
and
most expensive
yet,
thing that exists.
yeah, no question. But here's the weird part: there was for the last 100 years, no organosodium chemistry to speak of. An unbelievably small handful of characters studying organosodium chemistry. I'm going, you guys are prowling the periodic table looking for a niche, and somehow you forgot to look at sodium.
That's weird.
It's very weird. And so we went into it thinking there must be a reason. Usually the randos stumble upon shit. So they said just Brownian motion, just they will find the sweet spots just because there's bazillions of us out there trying to find a niche. And so we went into organosodium chemistry thinking there would be technical problems that would say this is why no one fucks for this stuff because it's just a pain in the ass, right? Who knows what? And it just wasn't true at all. We came up with
Hmm.
all sorts of cool stuff, and I go, holy shit. What I'm trying to do, I'm hoping, is that the Chinese have picked up on it because that means that there'll be hordes of organic chemists following up on organosodium chemistry in my
Well,
retirement.
I mean, CATL is the largest battery manufacturer in the world, and they are making right now
sodium
on their
batteries.
production lines. Yes. So like
I
that
would have
makes
thought
me,
they'd be heavy. I would have thought they'd be heavy because sodium is much heavier than lithium.
yeah, let me see what I can find out.
So on a per electron basis, sodium is, ballpark, five times, four times heavier than lithium.
Oh wow.
Now, have you seen the cars, the Chinese cars, where instead of charging, you just pull into what looks like a car wash, and it just
Yeah,
pulls your battery down and adds the battery up?
yeah, but
Holy.
it's amazing. But the thing is, you won't need that with these sodium ion ones. They also last way longer. They hold more charge, and the number of cycles it can do is
I'm gonna
massively
have to read
more.
up on these. This has been getting by me. This one's getting by me, which is so
Uh,
ironic. Silver's up $2.15 right now. Holy shit! I love it.
yeah, so it looks like so a kilowatt hour of storage for a sodium ion is 5.7 kilograms, and it's 4.9 for lithium.
Wow. So somehow that means, therefore, the complex composites of the battery, which have cobalt, all sorts of shit in it, that the sodium ion, that the mass of the sodium is being made up by somehow saving on the other shit that's in there.
Okay.
Because there's a lot of stuff in a battery. It's not just a big wad of lithium metal.
Yeah.
And so it must be that sodium somehow allows the other stuff to be economized. Because sodium 23 versus lithium 7, 23 to 7 is the sort of the mass.
This is the kind of thing I could just research for 3 days. This is very interesting to me hearing this. But yeah, so yeah, their sodium ion costs are like $40 per kilowatt hour to manufacture, versus the lithium one is between, it says $55 and $80.
Well, lithium's much more expensive. At one point, a company approached me years ago saying, we'd like you to look at sodium chemistry, write a proposal for us. Because they made 1 billion pounds of stuff using lithium reagents. They said sodium would be so much cheaper. So I wrote a proposal, and then nothing, crickets. And I finally reached out to them and said, well, and they said, oh, plans change. I go, you just got me to review the goddamn sodium literature for you for free. You
Wow,
pig fuckers.
bastards.
You pig fuckers. Which is by the same term I used to call the president of that organization, who called me a Hitler, a Nazi Holocaust denier.
Coming
I
back
called
to
him
that
a pig
again, huh?
fucker.
Coming back to that again.
Yeah.
And here we go.
I'm scarred. I'm scarred. I'm scarred.
Yeah, being
Now
personally,
go back to the other stuff. Yeah.
by being attacked for having an opinion, it's probably
Well, it's being a pussy too, though.
yeah.
Look at what Candace Owens goes through. Why did Michael Dell donate $6 billion? He didn't do it out of the goodness of his heart. There's no way. There's a kickback here. What is it?
For the good of
Big
America.
contract?
For the good of America.
Yeah, right. Donating $6 billion to the government. Since when does someone do that? I don't have an answer, but they asked me about it on a podcast. I said, you don't smell scam here?
Yeah.
He's getting something for it.
Yeah,
I don't know what it is,
I
but
don't know.
if someone out there knows what he's up to, let me know. Send me an email because something's up his sleeve.
Well,
I
listen,
do not believe billionaires donate like that.
the only legitimate charity is one done privately. So if you're doing it publicly anyway, it's already fishy.
Right. You're buying favors. What's the favor is the question. Right.
What do you guys? What What do you
Go ahead.
guys think in the next 12 to 24 months? What's this country going to look like? What's the United States going to look like? Matt, start.
Well, the hoax of the affordability crisis is going to get become more real. What Trump calls the hoax. I think that there's just no way that with the way that the government is being run with these budget deficits and only plans to spend more to improve things is not going to have a real negative effect on people. So the standard of living is going to continue to decline. I think that's for sure. And that's where the real pressure gets on people, and then that's where they maybe respond more negatively to all the other pressures around them, is when they actually, feel under real duress economically. That's the only thing that's for sure. I think like that trend seems unavoidable, but other than that, yeah, I can't really say. I think it's just things will just feel a little worse. It's quite possible we could be in a financial crisis. Certainly possible, should be, but it's also possible that war will be escalating in many places. Like, you think the thing in Ukraine is winding down? I don't think so.
No, I don't think it's winding down. No, I don't think
Oh,
it's
you
winding
don't?
down. No, I
Oh,
think Putin and Trump could have made a deal. Europe's in the way.
yeah. I'm not.
Europe's not going to
I'm
let
just.
it happen.
I don't know who. I don't think it's gonna. Like, to me, I see a continuity the entire time. I mean, remember, Trump was the one to complain. Obama only gave them blankets and and bandages, and I'm the one who gave them the shoulder fire
The
missile things,
javelins.
the javelins. Yeah, it just seems like
Right, but you know what
it's continuity.
Trump's ultimate goal. If I were Donald Trump and the Europeans were not involved, I'd say to Putin, say, look, here's the deal. Stop the war. You can have whatever region you want because I don't care, right? And in return, let's do bilateral trade agreements on this and this and this and this and this. That would
Yeah,
be perfect Trump. It would make so much sense. The problem is the Europeans would go, oh, fuck me, you're not going to do that.
but
They
but
need Ukraine,
but they also need us to be providing
and that's
Ukraine
why
with
it's so
all their
tricky.
ISR stuff.
That's why it's so tricky.
Doesn't the United States need China in order to keep sending these missiles and
Yes.
supplies?
Mhm.
Absolutely.
But China needs us too.
Yeah.
I never know what to make of China. One thing I know is that they're quiet, right? You don't get enough about China. Once in a while, someone say, "Oh, China's our biggest, enemy," but you don't. There's no dirt on China. It's very hard to get real information about what's going on in there. So
I have a friend. I talk to him every Monday. And he's an American guy from Ohio, but he's been living there for the last 15 years, and so I hear from him every week about what his experiences are there, and there's nothing negative to report.
they
For
don't
his, in
need to
his
take Taiwan, right? They don't need to take Taiwan.
No, why would they?
I
They'll absorb
I
Taiwan over time.
well,
It'll happen
yeah,
organically. I think their ideal situation is like some kind of like a Hong Kong like deal. Let's pick a
yeah.
year.
It's
Pick it
like us
50 years
taking
from
over the
now.
Virgin Islands. It would be like us taking over the Virgin Islands,
Well, they don't
Yeah.
invade. They don't
But
put military boots on the ground. It hasn't happened since
right?
1979.
Sun Tzu.
they would just blockade it if they really, but they'd only, there's no reason for them to do it.
I agree. I agree. I agree.
So,
Job loss is going to continue in the next 12 to 24 months.
oh yeah. Now here's one thing that I will say that one thing Trump has done well is all these foreign direct investments he's lined up are real and where people are legitimately planning to reshore. But the timeline on this stuff, it's just not going to happen fast enough. Um,
Well, they also cannot do it once he's a lame duck and they decide that that's not the thing to do. They
well,
they can
but
they can promise Trump anything. It's like the gold back 50-year treasuries. I love those. Gold back 50-year treasuries. I go, I'll promise you anything 50 years from now.
yeah, exactly. It's such bullshit. But these companies have committed. There's like you look at even like GE appliances, they're really moving washing manufacturing back, and they've started some work on it. I mean, and I expect that's probably going to continue. So there are those things, but they don't add up to many jobs. And there's a long list of these announcements, but it never adds up to enough jobs really to make it to move the needle in any big way. So yeah, and I mean, if nothing else, I mean, you definitely have this AI trend the part that isn't a bubble, where there are all kinds of job losses that will occur from that for sure.
Even if they suck, even if the AI sucks, there'll be job losses. So you'll find yourself talking to a computer and you'll go, "This just shoot me now," right? This is just going to be a pain in the ass.
Yeah, well, yeah, because it's such obvious cost savings to do it. And honestly, which percentages of white collar jobs are bullshit jobs anyway?
So Keynes said we'd be doing 20-hour work weeks. And he was right. What we do is we still do 40-hour work weeks.
Exactly.
But we do 20 hours worth of work.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. And you can get away with that with white collar stuff. You wouldn't be able to if you're working on an assembly line or building a house or something.
Well, it's like the chick who died in her cubicle at JP Morgan and it took them 5 days to find her.
Really? I didn't hear that.
Yeah. They found her
you mentioned
5 days after she died. Yeah. 5 days after she died. I'm going, Jesus, even the janitors aren't working.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's so surreal. Now that could be urban legend. Could be like the mountain lion that delivers its cub to your front doorstep video.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't think that's real.
I'll say one other thing I think that we will see real, not just job losses, but I think that we're going to see this competency crisis that we really legitimately have appear in more ways, where you have things that just break. Like where you have the Cloudflare error go down, and AWS laid off its original top engineers, in some of the recent layoffs, the guys who know where the bodies are buried in the code, so there's an AWS problem, so that like so much of this institutional knowledge has been retired out.
Boeing.
Yes. Yeah, and then, like even Airbus's thing, how they had to roll back the software updates supposedly because of solar flares. When they grounded thousands of Airbuses last week or the week before. So I think you see more shit just break. I mean, like Kunstler would say, it's just too complex. The institutional knowledge is being washed away, and so I think just more stuff will just break. Stuff that should be running just fine.
And there'll be no one who knows how to fix it.
Yes, remember that pipeline? What was it? Some pipeline during COVID. They couldn't remember there was a software. That's what it was. They got one of those. They got hacked basically, and where they lock up the software unless you pay us so many bitcoins or whatever.
Yeah.
So it was some pipeline, and in the U.S. this was during COVID, and they could turn it on manually, but the people who knew how to do it were retired. So they had to get the software fixed so that they could get the oil flowing again, or the gas, whatever it was. So that kind of stuff is just, you can expect way more of that.
Well, I've told a lot of people about your alternative to college plan. I've done a bunch of podcasts where I've mentioned it and said,
well, thank you.
It makes so much sense because, I said, imagine that a kid does four outward bound equivalents a year, does that for 4 years. And I mentioned some of the possibilities. I got to imagine as a potential employer how interesting that kid would be, especially if you're running like a construction company or something. Where you go, I want that guy on payroll. That's like in sports, you hire the athlete, not the position, right?
Yeah.
That guy can run a 100-yard dash in 9.2 seconds. Somehow that guy will scamper around that field usefully. Yeah, that's exactly right. So I think that's correct. I think there'll be job losses in academia. Mm-hmm. I've been trying to think. Adam Taggart and Grant Williams were talking about fourth turning, how you lose institutions during fourth turnings that grew up in the first three. The obvious, NATO, WEF, the EU, there's all sorts. Grant said, think darker, the Constitution. And I was thinking academics as we know it, right? We're not going to go to big online courses because they suck. We learned that from COVID. We're just going to not send kids to college, right? You don't need to go to college to then go to law school to be a lawyer. That's too many years to just learn how to read laws and do bullshit. And the grid could go, right? The grid could go.
Whether it's through something intentional or through this competency problem. Yeah.
Australia has a grid problem now. Australia ripped out all their coal-fired power plants, which is ironic given they're the biggest coal producer in the world.
Yeah,
and it turns out that this is something I didn't know. There's a woman named JoJo something who talks about it, where your grid has a frequency to it. It's not like clouds versus sunlight bullshit. It's a frequency, it's sort of megahertz frequency. And that if you have a big rotor at Niagara Falls, the frequency is incomprehensibly steady because nothing's going to slow that thing down or speed it up in any sort of time scale that you care about. But apparently the grid can only take so much alternative energy before it destabilizes, and Australia apparently is now destabilized.
This is the explanation for the Spanish blackout, is something like this too, actually.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
Yeah. It was a mismatch of frequencies, and then it caused all the fail safes to go off, and it shut the whole thing down.
Germany could be in this ASAP. And then the absurdity of Germany is you can find article after article about how they're in the deepest of depressions. They got rid of their energy, they got rid of their production, they got rid of everything. They really went totally woke into the new world. And yet the DAX is parabolic. It is.
Well, that's because they know these VW factories are going to be making tanks again.
The DAX is up, 20% year to date. It's now flattened out at least, but it's up 81% in 5 years. When sustainably long term, according to Buffett, according to Ron Grice, according to a number of guys, you can get on a total return basis maybe up to 4%.
Right. Well,
so if you're getting 21% this year, do not in any way think that that's sustainable. It's just not. We didn't increase our ability to create wealth 21% this year.
No, we just get a little bit better at financialization. That's all.
But that'll break. That will break.
No, definitely.
Yeah, I know. People say, well, what would stop it? I go, a vibration. Butterfly flapping its wings.
Could be anything.
Could be anything. Could be, someone drops a mob on the wrong country at the wrong time, that sort of thing. And so I agree with that analysis about the inequality gap. I don't know where the poverty line should be drawn. 140 sounds too high, unless you live in, I don't know, maybe San Francisco. I don't know, but
yeah, but it's funny how though that he
but his analysis is well done,
and he did two different approaches, and he comes to almost the same number, which was interesting.
I know. And
I haven't been to the U.S. in over a year, but last time I was there, I remember talking to my wife saying, I don't know how people could possibly live here for making less than $100,000. I don't know how you'd pay for the basics.
Do you have any desire to come here right now, Matt?
No.
Do you think you'll ever
He's in Uruguay. That's your answer.
Do you think you'll ever come back to the United States?
I mean, I will have to at some point when my parents pass away. I'm gonna have to come back. When I've got an RV and some cars that are sitting in Colorado. Got to do something with them eventually. Right now, my kids use my cars when they're back, but.
So they're in the U.S. Where are they? They're in the U.S.
No, they're here right now. But my son's doing that program. He's our beta tester.
Right.
So he just finished this. In 2 weeks, I guess he's technically done with the entrepreneurship cycle, and it was cool. He started an agricultural drone business. So, these things are pretty awesome, actually, what these things do. And, hit the standard level of success or the benchmark you're looking for, because you're starting a business that is, it's only 3 months long, right? You have to move on.
Right.
So the measurement of success is whether or not you can generate a customer, a lead, convert them into a paying customer, and deliver the product successfully, and then be happy with it. And if you do that, the whole world opens up to you. As an entrepreneur, I can say this: once you get your first customer, you see how it all goes, like what's required, and then you start to look at opportunities totally differently. So he did that, but he's going to Thailand for the next few months to a Muay Thai camp, and then he's going back to the U.S. And we'll spend 3 months there to do some stuff. So, and my daughter's here, but she just turned 18, and she's going to spend the first quarter of next year there. She's going to go to this place where in 2 weeks build a house. She's our beta tester for the female version.
I took a 2-week home building crash course myself. And at the end of it, I couldn't have built a house right away, but I was convinced that given time and patience, I could. And more importantly, I could stand there with a contractor and talk about what the hell's going on and understand what's behind the walls, why it's in there, that sort of thing. Why that sill is important, why the soffits are the way they are. And I've thought about, how many of those 2-week courses, I still got to connect you up with my son who's got an HVAC course.
Yeah.
While running the events at the Council on Foreign Relations.
I want to ask Matt. So for your daughter, it says 2-week build a house. What other ideas do you have in mind for her preparation?
Yeah, the chick version.
Well, the vast majority of them can be the same. Now, but I will not tolerate my daughter going and doing Muay Thai, getting elbows and knees to the head for a few months. I'm not cool with that.
Are you sure? I coach Taekwondo, and the girls benefited a ton.
I think Taekwondo is a little. There's in most Taekwondo, you're not doing contact.
There's contact, but it's not. You're not trying to choke a person out or whatever, right?
Well, in like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I'd actually be okay with, because it's very controlled, the whole time.
Right.
Sometimes somebody gets a little overzealous and hurts somebody, but for the most part, in a good gym, like people, that doesn't happen very often.
Right.
So, but yeah, I don't know about I'd probably rather her go do like Krav Maga or something like that. That's like much more like because it's very self-defense oriented, and it's for a girl. It's strikes, violent strikes, effective strikes, and like quick action. And I think that would be, to me, I think she'd get more out of it. But I do not want her doing Muay Thai. Muay Thai is not good.
I don't know. My son did Muay Thai and Taekwondo, so I don't know. I'll get him to do a compare and contrast for me at some point.
Like I'd be happy with my son doing it. No issues. But my daughter, I do not want.
But what you benefit, my opinion is what you benefit. So I ended up 3rd degree in Taekwondo. It doesn't turn you into a killing machine. That's kind of a misnomer. Yeah. What it does do, and why the girls benefit more than the boys, in my opinion, is that it teaches you how to handle people who have entered your personal space. And girls don't get enough of that. They don't get access to that because first of all, something doesn't hurt unless it's real pain. And there's a lot of people, just getting smacked would be extremely painful because of the emotional component. And you shake that fast. You shake that very quickly.
Yeah, you need to get over that. Yep.
So then what happens is then you go, okay, yeah, that stung a little, but I'm going to bust that guy's ass. And so it allows you to keep your shit together in situations that would cause most people serious emotional malfunction.
Yeah, I agree with that. I just think of the martial arts. That's not the.
Yeah, I don't know Muay Thai at all.
I'd rather do Krav Maga. Honestly, it was probably much better.
What is that? What is that?
That's the Israeli martial art.
Oh, we're back there again. God damn it!
Yeah, I didn't want to mention it. But it's very effective for like self-defense, especially if you're undersized. I mean, it's good.
I'm not undersized.
No, me either.
What about the cooking? What about the cooking?
Well, she's going to do that this year too. She's going to do a month in Florence.
Oh, so she's doing that.
Yeah, she's doing that. So
you must have to set these up. You must have to get people to sign off on the idea that you're doing, right? They're not just opportunities. They have to say, oh, that'll be cool. Yeah, I'll cooperate with you to do this. I mean,
Which people are you talking about?
would you be able to get your kids into these situations if we're not part of an experiment that would capture the imagination of the person providing the service on the other end?
No, these are all people who offer these classes right now. So they're
oh,
open
they
to the
do
public.
already. Oh, they do
Yeah.
already. Okay.
So
I thought
they're
you were setting up internships, setting them up.
Yeah. No, they're all readily available. So the 16 we have in our, in the book are all ones, all the details are there, where to go,
So
what
you
to
got to
do.
send your son to Wall Street for 3 months to get the hookers and blow part down.
Yeah, there's an investor cycle actually, but I'm definitely not going to get him close to finance people for that. I do not want him. It's a bad influence.
The next version would have to be some religious thing, like to retrieve the soul,
get the demons out.
Yeah, an exorcism cycle.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, the investor. So most of them, they start off and they're very like tangible, very very like real things. Like the EMT thing is the first one I recommend people do.
Because you learn phenomenal. That's a phenomenal one.
What's that?
You could save a life. You know what to do in a crisis.
I've done CPR twice. I mean, I've done CPR twice.
And most people have no idea what to do. They have no way to handle it.
I could teach CPR in 5 minutes. It takes no time at all. But not knowing it, is horrifying because you wouldn't know what to do. One of the things about CPR is it gives the person a chance to try.
Yep. So the EMT thing is great, and then but then it gets more into the abstract, and so like the entrepreneurship one is the most abstract one Max has done so far in the 2 years. It's that because it's hard to really like what exactly do I do, for moment to moment, like it's hard to figure it out. So when you're doing if you're going to Shelter Institute and you're learning how to build a house, I mean it's very clear. I mean they're just directing you exactly what to do the entire time.
How about one where you work in a soup kitchen or something?
Yeah, well, that's when Matt Bracken talked about something like that, and the one I came up because we're trying to do a lot of different things at the same time. Teach them a skill, but also create an opportunity for education in a broader respect. So that's why I like this Florence cooking school, because I mean Florence is one of the still most amazing cities in the world. You're surrounded by so much that you could learn about so many different things. There's required 9 hours a week of Italian classes during the entire thing. You certainly learn how to cook. And I just think the experience, just, getting out of your normal mode and getting into someplace new, I think it has its own power too.
So my son needed he's a professional violinist now, earning exactly what you'd expect from a professional violinist. So the bank of dad turns out to be a very important component of the story. And he really needed a big upgrade in the quality of violin. And so he went to Europe for a month, and he went to every shop, traveled around different countries, went to auctions, went to museums. And then on one of the last days, he was at a Tariffs auction, and the 1735 Carlo Antonio Testori Italian violin showed up, and he said, that's the one right there. And he bought it. With the help of the Bank of Dad. Yeah. I am officially the owner of an 18th century Italian violin of considerable repute. Yeah, that's right. Amazing. And here's what's really interesting. I collect antiques. One of the things you find is the minute you get the antique home, it either improves in your eyes or goes down. So you either have buyer's remorse or you go, holy shit, this is really a great piece. And this violin has just continued to soar in his eyes as he plays it. And my son, the way he got good was not through profound training the whole way, because he actually started without a great teacher because we didn't know better. But when he was in the womb, my wife played classical music into the womb. She put headphones literally, and he came out of there. And when he was 3 or 4 years old, he was listening to classical music, not because we were putting it in front of him. He just, he could hear everything. He had an ear that was off the charts because prenatal development of the ear.
Yeah, I'm gonna send you this video. I can't recall. I can't remember which channel it was on even now. But it's basically this guy, this musician in LA. He listened to this wide variety of music all the time. Like he's a total aficionado, right? And so his young boy always heard all this variety of music. And it turns out that the kid, as he got to like 10 years old, they recognized that he had perfect pitch. And
Right.
why do you, and to him, the sounds, the notes were all a color. Like he could see, like, and so he could describe you see the exercises he does with this kid, and it's unbelievable. And it's just because of this huge, like if I wish I'd known this when my kids were little, like, because I would have at least, I liked a lot of variety of music, but I could have done it intentionally because who knows,
I'm not
because
sure you should do that. You might
no,
end
but
up
he
with
didn't,
a
he didn't train him.
musician as an adult.
Yeah, but he didn't. But this kid it's so impressive of a
No, that's
skill.
the
This kid
same
has,
with my son. Same with my son.
yeah,
It was just his. It's like the cab drivers in London in the old days. They had a
right.
lobe when they did an autopsy or did a scan on these guys. That one of their lobes of their brain was just enormous from all the memorization they had to
Yeah,
do.
the spatial, yeah, the
Yeah,
map that they had. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and so you don't realize how much neuroplasticity is going on in your brain and how they use it or lose it and use it a lot, develop it, and so like if you are going deaf, one of the biggest problems is senility will kick in if you're not getting the input.
Ah, that makes great sense, actually.
Yeah, and I am slowly going deaf, but my wife said, well, you should wear your hearing aids, and I go, I'm not sure I want to hear everything you have to say.
Well,
And
you turn it down. That's a good thing, right?
yeah, I know. And they said, part of the problem with hearing is learned behavior. But I said, but I'm getting constant input into my ears. I have podcasts going all day, and that's gotta do it, right? It might not cause human interaction development, right? I might become a sociopath or something, but my ears are getting constantly bombarded.
Yeah.
With information and
but mine too. But we should probably be listening to classical music instead, to be honest.
instead
Better for
of
us instead of the podcast.
I know. Meanwhile, all the guys listening to this one are going, now you tell me?
This is podcast slop.
Holy shit. I just wasted an hour and a half on podcast slop.
That's why we saved this part for the end, man. This is why we mentioned the classical music at the very end of the conversation. So it's worth them listening all the way through.
Yeah.
Dave,
well, I'm an audio guy. That's the thing I realized. That's the irony of going somewhat deaf, is that I bought a book from Amazon one day and it showed up and it was the CD by mistake. I was trying to figure out how to send it back. It was way back, turn of the millennium close. And I remember when it was. It was when Secretary of the Treasury O'Neill left the Bush White House and wrote a book. And I said, I got to find out what the fuck was going on inside that White House. So I'm buying that book. And it showed up as a CD and I was trying to send it back. I said, screw it, just listen to it. And I go, holy shit. All this time you've been missing. And so when I commute to work 12 minutes each way, the book's on. When my wife says, would you go to the store? She doesn't understand why I'm so cooperative because she just asked me to read.
Yeah. And your comprehension is better or worse?
I think it's
versus reading.
Well, for me, reading, I think it's better audio because reading, I pass out. I also have a sleep disorder. I'm a highly flawed character. I have a sleep disorder. That got diagnosed when I was about 30, but I was talk. I jumped out a second story window, almost drove a car, really wild stuff. Yeah. And in fact, the sleep clinic I went to, the guy remembered me a dozen years later, said, oh,
you're that guy.
I remember you. Yeah. We were there for my wife. And because of that, I can fall asleep anywhere. And it actually can be chronic. Like, for example, if driving became a real problem for me. And so I actually have Ritalin prescriptions for when I have to drive distances. Now, what's great about it is I get high as fuck, turn on the audiobook, and I'm in a zone it's just cocaine city here. And but I would pass out driving if I didn't do that. And so it's been a game saver for long drives, but the short drives and the problem with an audiobook is it's harder to go back, right? So if someone says, well, did so and so write about this? I go, I can't. There's no way I can find it in a stack of CDs or in a download or
It's the
whatever.
same with the Kindle. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I like
Yeah.
looking at my books, and then I remember, just when I see it physically, I can remember, it triggers memories about the book
Well,
that I could.
what bothers me is that sometimes I can look at a book and go, I don't remember anything that's in there now. Um, who was it? Um, um, Famous author. In any event, he said, I don't remember the books I've read any more than the meals that I've eaten, but they've made me who I am today. And I realized when you can't recall something, it's because you're trying to recall it using a mechanism that doesn't work right. When we're talking and all of a sudden the topic of neuroplasticity comes up, all the books on neuroplasticity I read, the information starts popping
Right.
out of my skull. And so it just gets triggered. And so the indexing mechanism is we'd like it to just be photographic, but it's a trigger mechanism where you say you look at the book, you get a cue. I used to be told to study in the room you're going to take the exam, so that
Mm.
visual cues would remind you of something you had learned, that sort of thing. Um, but the audiobooks have been a game saver, because just commuting to work and back, I could probably knock off a dozen books just on that part of driving.
Mm.
And that's a dozen
Yeah,
books I wouldn't have read.
I'm a big fan of it. I do that too, for save it for in the car, save it when I'm traveling,
Right.
if I have to
But
spend a lot of
most
hours
people
on a
think it's
plane.
for long drives. I go, no, 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 no. The ideal audio is about a half an hour.
Mm.
That really works well, because then you get a serious chunk of it, but you don't get stale. In fact, I listen to multiple books on long drives. So I'll be
Mm.
tooling along and I'll go, okay, getting a little numb on this one. I'll switch over to a
Mix it
different
up.
topic. Yeah, mix it
Yeah.
up, mix it up. Yeah, a party tape. And in fact, when I first discovered this love of audio, I emailed Amazon and said, could you send me a link that represents a search of all nonfiction audiobooks? And they sent me a link that searched the entire
They
Amazon
did.
database for nonfiction. There are only 2,300. There must be
Wow.
10 million now.
Yeah.
But didn't
You
you
wouldn't
say
want that link now.
this last point I want to make with that? Because didn't you say, Matt, that your book sales is like in the top 1%? Because there's how many books are published a year?
Well, yeah. The book industry is either a scam or it's a shitty business, because what I found out is, I didn't know, like, I've never written a book for it. What are good sales? I have no idea, you know?
Right.
So, once we'd sold 4,000 copies, which, we're at a little over 15,000 now, I was like, well, how does that work? How does that rank? And so I did some research. What I found out was that of the 58,000 books published a year by publishers, Random House, etc., less than 1% of them sell 4,000 or more copies over their lifetime.
That's
And then
appalling.
I just think how sad that must be for that person who gets to deal with a publisher, and they think they made it. They write the book, they put their, like, heart and soul into it. The publisher approves it, puts it out there. They sell 1,200 copies, you know?
The academic world will get three guys to write an organic chemistry textbook, and then they'll just pick which one to market, and the other guys, they just get left on the curb.
Oh, wow.
That's really evil. So my
Yeah.
colleague, who had something like 60% of the organic chemistry market, which is a big market, he must have made a fortune. I mean, he really made a fortune.
Well, that
Um,
textbook, yeah, if you get a textbook,
and you get one of the big ones.
yeah.
Um, so the first modern freshman chemistry book was written by one of my colleagues. And for anyone who took freshman chem years ago, it was Cienko and Plain. Cienko and Plain were at Cornell. And it was the first one that looked modern. It was like a transition to better graphics and things like that. And he sold his 2 millionth copy in 1968. I mean,
Holy shit.
that's right. And he had a house up on a knoll. He called it the house on McGraw Hill. But
Yeah.
but it's a tough business. And so my colleague who had the market, he signed a contract with them that I don't think they understood the full consequences, but he kept the publishing rights somehow. And his last version of the book he put out for free. Now, organic chemistry doesn't change. So from that point on, it is not responsible to use a different book, because that was considered the best book, and now it costs nothing. So when I taught a laboratory course for the majors, I went and bought used copies of the textbook and put them in the drawers like in high school. Said, don't buy the book, we'll provide the book. So I bought them from former students for like $40 a piece. And then I just left them in the drawers, and they worked for a number of years. They kept the kids from having to buy a book for ridiculous
prices. $250 book or whatever.
Well, I use unrestricted research funds to do it, and then after they wore out, someone scanned the book and gave them the PDF. And I go, I don't think that's legal.
Yeah,
right? I think you just broke the law on that one, but I haven't bothered to tell anybody. And so there's still a scanned PDF of that book in the course decades later.
Wow.
Yeah.
It was one of the big. I remember I only went to college for 2 years. I'm a dropout, but I remember taking the whole
you
book.
Fuckhead, you quitter, you coward.
I know. Exactly. I am definitely a quitter. I definitely am a quitter. But I remember thinking the whole book thing was unbelievable to me. Then it was like $120 a book, and I'm like, how does this work? This is a giant scam. And now I could buy the used one for $105.
And you sold it back for what? You got 30 or $40 back when you sold it?
Something like that. It's a giant scam.
Griftocracy.
Well, and they also put out a new edition just so that the old editions are no longer considered usable. And they scramble the question numbers and stuff. So if someone says do questions 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9, it's the wrong questions.
Oh, really?
Things like that. Yeah, so I teach a lot of courses without textbooks. I just have notes. And I said, look, I'm going to teach what I think is important. I'm going to test you on what I think is important. Therefore, my lecture notes are your textbook.
Yeah.
Right.
That's good. That's good of you to do that.
So I guess our 90-minute conversation, people are going to get a bonus almost hour beyond our 90 minutes.
Has it been that long
almost
again?
2.5, almost 2.5.
Wow.
Dave, I know we can find you under your desk, so I'll save you from plugging where we can find you, and Twitter and X. Matt?
Crisisinvesting.com is probably the best place. I do a podcast with Doug Casey, but we're taking a break until mid-January. That's Doug Casey's Take on YouTube or any other podcast place. And the book is called The Preparation, which you should go buy on Amazon. Even if you're not a college, if you're a young man who is kind of lost his way or is trying to find it, they will benefit from it. Even if that young man might already be out of college, they will get something out of it. So, I have a copy here.
Oh,
you looking for yours, Dave?
I'm looking for mine. God damn it!
Here, Matt, talk again and hold it up. So,
The Preparation. It's The Preparation: How to Become Competent, Confident, and Dangerous. Thanks,
Why
Dave.
is it backwards in my image?
No, it looks fine.
It's right for us.
No, it's backwards in my image. Curious.
So you can go to thepreparation.com. That we have a Substack for it. And if you want to see it in action, my son has been, as part of the program, what they're supposed to do is for accountability reasons, basically just document what they do each week. And so my son's been doing it for over 2 years, and you can see his Substack at maximsmith.com. And he's come from, it started off as just this really crude list of the shit he got done. And now he's actually become a competent writer by doing it, over time. So it's been another skill that he's developed that he didn't have, for sure.
Which is also faltering elsewhere in the world. The ability to write is going down the tubes fast, and AI is going to destroy it. That's one of the downsides of AI is that it provides the tool for the kids to do their homework and their papers without actually thinking.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to learn that fundamental skill first, and then you can add AI with everything. I think AI is I guess Microsoft calls it co-pilot. It's effective when you think of it like that. It's a really useful tool to have attached to you, but if you don't have the fundamental skill first, it's dangerous.
So let me ask you. One of the problems I had this year with my hitching robot problem, where I wasn't going to write anything.
Last point, Dave, because we've
My
been going for a
my
while.
my source material seems like it's gone south, and I'm wondering if it's because I'm reading more and more AI articles, which in theory have valuable information, but in practice there's kind of a soullessness to it, and somehow I can't stay with it. I find there's a sterility or something. I'm wondering if it's AI doing that.
That's a good point. That really could be it.
Because I don't think humans just write different. You feel the human being in the writing. Like when I write a letter recommendation, I make it very blog-like so that the reader knows I wrote the damn thing and it's not some boilerplate. So I use cute phrases and stuff that show that, you know, it's personally written. And at the end of the most recent one yesterday, I wrote, and no part of this letter was assisted or edited with AI.
Just in case you didn't figure it out already. Yes.
Well, it turns out everyone's using AI to clean up everything. And I wonder if it's sterilizing it. I wonder if it's turning it, like in a tenure case, when you read a letter, you're looking for an emotion. So a person can say this person's a strong case for tenure. But then there's the letter where you say, no, I want to see the person really want the person to get tenure. And I'm wondering if it's possible they're using AI to help write their letters and that part's being scrubbed out. And now we're getting letters that lack emotion and therefore seem like faint praise.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, I know for myself, like my best writing is when I'm angry. Like I'm a little bit pissed off.
Write drunk, edit sober.
Right. I don't edit, so that's the problem.
Oh, editing's the whole thing.
I know it's the most important thing.
Editing. I got a massively intricate editing process.
Yeah, but that's because you have to do it. I do it for you're doing it because you're writing to get grants and stuff like that. I mean, stuff that it matters.
Grants.
You get it. You get stuff right. Exactly. Yeah. For mine, it's like
whatever.
I'm gonna get criticized because I didn't, my grammar sucks or something like that. And that's okay.
Right.
Guys, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and I can't wait for the next one.
We're on for another one.
Here, let me close. Let me wrap this up, and we'll talk offline for a second. But yeah, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and for those that are listening, watching, I put everything up early on my Substack. So if you consider becoming a paid subscriber, I also read all the comments on YouTube, Rumble. So go ahead, comment, share, like. And you guys are been very supportive, Dave and Matt, what I'm doing by coming on, always making yourself available. So thank you, and look forward to the next one.
Thank you. Merry Christmas.
You too.
Mic drop.
Nice chatting.